books was in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harret Sean Calfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harret Sean Calfunny, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.
Hey, what up? Peace, peace. Peace to the fam. Share life for y'all need. Welcome back to Kofi Paisa TV with the Kofi Paisa Research Team. We just doing a quick build. I will be throwing the link out there in just a minute. I got my brother Chavis on here with me. Let him introduce himself before I get into the video.
Oh, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Brother Chavis, Tep Hesed, and Cray, you know what I'm saying? Gonna just sit back and soak up game. Y'all like and share the show. You know, I'm you tonight.
Yeah, man. Make sure as y'all come in, you please, as my brother Chavis said, please like the show, please share the show. Hopefully we'll be getting some more y'all in here soon, and hopefully a couple of other brothers are coming through. But until then, we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna play the disclaimer.
Christianity and Islam are very prominent religions in Uganda. And as we all know, they were introduced by the Christian missionaries and the Arab traders, and they deemed African traditional religions ungodly to the extent that wearing back cloth made from Omutuba tree to church is related to witchcraft. This is Know Your Roots. I met these two ladies and talked about it. You need to hear what they had to say.
I hear the ancestors calling. Do you know who you are or where you come from? I hear them, mama. They say, and know your roots. Know your roots. Know your roots. Yeah, I hear them, mama.
Hi guys, this is Atiang again, bringing you Know Your Roots. So there's this thing that happens in church when we go to church and they tell us that things to do with our religions are demonic. I'll have these two ladies here, Denise and
Filana.
Filana. Nice to meet you, Filana, by the way. I like your hair.
Thank you.
So guys, when we go to church most of the time, you get it, and they are preaching to you about God and stuff. There are times when they tell you, you know, even to be of wangwa, are demonic. But do you think our African traditional religion is demonic?
To me, I think it's not demonic. Reason being is the African traditional religion, they believe in one creator. Even when you bring it in some local languages, you can bring to Baganda, they say Katonda, which means creator. You go to Banyoro, they say Ruhanga, which means creator, meaning that they believed in one creator who is God.
Like you said, yes, we have the perception of one God. That was before religion came, the Christianity, the Islam. We had the whole one God and we worshipped that God, the creator, who is actually God, although the white people put, you know, the white men gave us one English word. But it's what we do as Africans that makes it seem really demonic.
What exactly is that?
When it comes to blood sacrifice, I'm not talking animals, I'm not talking chicken, I'm not talking rabbits, I'm talking actual human beings.
Really?
Over the year, we have had many people have lost.
Does it have to do with culture or people?
This is why I connected. This is why I connected. Apart from me being greedy, I can go to God and ask God, give me money because I want it for me. That's me being greedy. You get? That's me being greedy because I want it for me. I want money for me. I want the fame. I want the cars. That's me. That's me being greedy. But then let's relate to the African tradition where I get someone's kid, sacrifice that kid to small gods to get money.
Do you think that has to do with our tradition, or it's just people being satanic in a way? Because I don't know. Sometimes
the thing is, no. Before in the day, we had spiritual leaders before colonial times came. Now those spiritual leaders are now pastors and imams and all that. But let's go back to our spiritual leaders. That time when we had kings as rulers and not presidents, we had spiritual leaders who would come and advise the kings. But you've never had at one point where those spiritual leaders had to sacrifice children to get those aspects. So I'm saying that
the traditional,
yes, the spiritual leaders, they never had to do all that.
Actually, that reminds me of something. I went to Tanda Theological Site in Mitiana, and I saw this traditional doctor. Yeah. You get it? He was busy, you know, chanting, and he had a Bible open there, and he had a Quran. He would chant his incantations, then he reads a scripture out loud, and then he goes into the Quran and recites a verse. And I asked him, how come you have two things? You have the Bible, you have the Quran, and then you're praying at the altar of Mwanga. I thought these don't mix. And this is, you know, he laughed so hard and told me, my dear, you are the guys who mix this up. That's what he told me. Because we also pray to God, but maybe we use different channels according to him. They also pray to God, and what they call the judges are the intercessors, like you see in the Catholic Church where you have Saint Paul, Saint. So they also have, I think, Saint Mwanga, Saint Muso.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So did that make what he was doing demonic?
I don't know.
We all believe in one God, no matter how many names we call him. Allah, God, Jehovah, Isha, the whole, Katonda. You know, God, Katonda. That whole aspect, yeah. But it's what we do in those religions that make it demonic.
Let me ask you guys something. Would you actually go to a shrine? see your faces.
No.
Would you go to a shrine?
For educational matters, I would.
No, like
For historical matters, I would. But my religion does not inspect with that whole concept.
Brings me to a question. Would you wear back clothes to church? Put a full
Man,
blown
I see the way you have to change it is. I would design it. I would even give it a Nike label. Trust me, I would roll in some backlot Supras right there. I'm talking Jordans.
One time I was wearing a necklace and it was made out of backlot, and I walked. There was this person who was born again. The reaction was alarming. Oh my God! Eliodogo!
Every person is a fan of Laura's show. I'm going to make it clear to you. Backcloth is like any fashion statement, like Yeezy, Adidas, Nike, Supras, Jordan, Gucci and Gabbana, Louis Vuitton. It's just that when you step in Africa, 256 Uganda, that's what we rock. So do not associate your whole aspect.
Roger
so I'm just saying.
Roger,
and by the way, it's not a disclaimer. It's not a disclaimer. My views are mine alone, not for the show.
Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't, and check out our Facebook page. It is also called Know Your Roots, where you'll get all your cultural knowledge brought to you. Thank you for watching.
Know your roots, yeah, mama.
Yeah, man. So she made a couple of good points between the differences of Christianity and traditional African religion, or what we are now trying to call Kimoyo. A savior is what she was describing. There is no savior figures in these African cultures. Also, well, I'll just stop with that. I'll just pause right there. There is no savior figures in these African cultures. That is a predominant trait of Christianity. What's up, Kofi? You got something to add on that point before I move on?
Yeah, I'm flipping through the pages, man, in my book, and it seemed like I don't know, man. All these let Chavis back in, and it not even just with this book here, just with each volume that we done put out, with the discussions that's been going on, that let me know the people that say they rock with us don't rock with us because they ain't even purchased the book and they hadn't even read the book. You know, these discussions, man, a lot of individuals wouldn't be asking 1,000 questions because we have already covered this stuff not only on the channel, but we have put it in publication. And you know, even with this Christianity thing right now, like if you go to my new book, Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo, I talk about this in chapter 9, but I also, this chapter 9 is an expound version of one of the volumes in the chapters that I had in the book talking about Christianity. Just like I just jumped in here, I missed the part. I jumped in, I didn't see the whole video, but like that young lady said, first of all, when the girl talked about sacrifice a while ago, I got a whole chapter that deals with sacrifice, blood, all, you know, the different types of sacrifice. And the woman mentioned satanic right there. That already let me know that she was her worldview, her train of thought, or her belief may be something dealing with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So the little young girl, the little young lady just mentioned that they don't have a savior into African traditions. And we done talked about this numerous of times. I done did a presentation. I done wrote about it in one of the chapters in our volumes, and I even wrote a whole chapter 9 in my book. Hold on, let me go to it. I want to give people the name of it too, and people that got the book. Damn, I just was on the chapter 9. It's called Why We Turn Against Our Traditions. But in that chapter, I talk about African traditions doesn't have a savior. African traditions doesn't have a book for its different, like if you look at Akumi does not have a book, just like Christianity has a book. If you look at the Igbo tradition, the Odenani tradition, they does not have a book that is attached to their tradition or their way of life. If you look at the Fon people down in Benin, in Togo, Voodoo does not have a book that is attached to it, nor does it have a savior that is attached to it. Also, if you I even talk about in the chapter 2 in my book, I also talk about it's been things about the creator or God or the supreme deity. We know that in Christianity, God is separate from his existence. God is not a part of his existence. And when we look at African traditions, God is the totality of all existence. God is every and all things at one time. You see, and God in the Christianity or even in Judaism or Islam and some of these in Buddhism and Hinduism, Shintoism, Taoism, all these other different isms, God has his hands into human affairs. In African traditions, they does not have their hands in human affairs. In Christianity, Judaism, and Islam or Christianity, they does not have something that is called lesser deities. They in Akumi, you look in Akumi, they have lesser deities. You look into Ifa or Esheshe has lesser deities. You look into Gulu Wankulu, they have lesser deities, etc. No matter whether you go into the Bakanda in the with the Ganda people, in the Bakanda, the Gul people, whoever, they have lesser deities. So when you look at the lesser deities are those are the individuals and the ancestors. Those are the ones that actually has their hands in human affairs. We do certain things where we set up altars, relics, certain things. And we ask the ancestors for protection. We ask the ancestors for guidance. The same things that we do when we do with the Orisha, or what we do with the Fangul down in Gambia, with in Senegal with the Sira people. So we are offering these certain things by pouring libations, doing certain sacrifices because we want certain things out of life. So I can keep going on. So it's so many different things that Christianity that doesn't do when it comes to African tradition. A lot of people make those comparisons because they are not well studied in African traditions and African culture. So they look at everything from Christianity or Judaism or Islamic perspective of Islamic worldview, and just because the Arabs have certain things or does certain things, or the European and Christianity does certain things, or the so-called Jews do certain things, they are and most of our people have been engulfed in Christianity. Most of our people been engulfed in Islam. Most of our people been engulfed in Judaism. So when they come out of those things, or they have studied those things, they force that perspective onto African traditions without going and actually studying tradition. When they see the word God, automatically they think that the African God or the African deity is the same or operates the same as the Christian God or the Islamic God or the Judaism God. Instead of them going and study, they just makes assumption. So in chapter 9, I deal with this and outlist this whole thing. I'm telling you, this is a good chapter to read because it goes into the whole details, and I compare the Christianity, Islam, and Judaism with African traditions. So we won't make, or people won't make those mistakes of comparing the two and contrasting and saying and saying when they look at certain words, they looking at it as the same as like I said with the word God. they thinking that God, the African God, or those guys in Africa that's dealing with those multiple ethnic groups operates the same as those belief systems, Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. So she did make a, like I said, she did make a point. I like the point that she made that um, about they does not have a savior in their tradition, which they don't. I don't care what tradition you go into, there's not a savior. You have heroes. You have heroes. A lot of people, and I talk about that in my book too. So I talk about the heroes in the book too. I specifically didn't talk about Shango, but Shango, I briefly mentioned Shango because everybody know about Shango. But I mentioned other heroes in other different ethnic groups in East Africa. I think I mentioned one in South Africa. And I think I mentioned one in Central Africa in the book, if I'm not mistaken. So I talk about the heroes, but most people know about Shango. I also even talk about Imhotep, that's who was a hero. He became deified. He was a hero in Africa. I mean, in North Africa. You know what I'm saying? Doing the pyramid stages. A lot of people, we know about Imhotep being the father of medicine. He also helped orchestrate and engineer the pyramid of Zoger, the pyramid of Zoger during the pyramid age and certain. So he became a hero in that culture. You know what I'm saying? So they do, and then he became deified. The same thing with Shango. When you go and look at Shango, you go look at the Yoruba culture down in West Africa, you see the same thing. You see Shango becomes a hero in the Yoruba culture, and then Shango becomes deified in the Yoruba culture, and he becomes raised as an Orisha. So they do have heroes, but they do not have savior. They do not have someone who comes back, or someone that is. God came back in the flesh and he walked around and he was ill-willed against the community or the people that he created. So he brought a savior back and he was sacrificed. That is not the case in African tradition, or in what we call Kimoyo today. That does not have a savior figure as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, and all the other damn isms out there.
Yeah, man, them some good points. You touched on a lot of the key factors or the key traits in Christianities. So I mean, I don't understand how one could feel like this is an African religion when we don't see much African culture in this religion at all, and we already know the origins are outside of Africa. So I see we got a few more people in here, and you didn't see the first beginning of the video, so I'm gonna play it over real quick. It's just a short video anyway, so let me get to it.
Christianity and Islam are very prominent religions in Uganda. And as we all know, they were introduced by the Christian missionaries and the Arab traders, and they deemed African traditional religions ungodly to the extent that wearing backcloth made from Omutuba tree to church is related to witchcraft. This is Know Your Roots. I met these two ladies and talked about it. You need to hear what they had to say.
I hear the ancestors calling. Do you know who you are or where you come from? I hear your mama. They say and know your roots. Know your roots. Know your roots. Yeah, I hear your mama.
Hi guys, this is Atiang again, bringing you Know Your Roots. So there's this thing that happens in church when we go to church and they tell us that things to do with our religions are demonic. I have these two ladies here, Denise and Philana. Nice to meet you, Philana, by the way. I like your hair.
Thank you.
So guys, when we go to church most of the time, you get it, and they are preaching to you about God and stuff. that there are times when they tell you, you know, eventually of wangwa, are demonic. But do you think our African traditional religion is demonic?
To me, I think it's not demonic. Reason being is the African traditional religion, they believe in one creator. Even when you bring it in some local languages, you can bring to Baganda, they say Katonda, which means creator. You go to Banyoro, they say Ruhanga, which means creator, meaning that they believed in one creator who is God.
Like you said, yes, we have the perception of one God. That was before religion came, the Christianity, the Islam. We had the whole one God, and we worshipped that God, the creator, who is actually God, although the white people put, you know, the white men gave us one English word. But it's what we do as Africans that makes it seem really demonic.
What exactly is that?
When it comes to blood sacrifice, I'm not talking animals, I'm not talking chicken, I'm not talking rabbits, I'm talking actual human beings.
Really?
Over the year, we have had many people have lost.
Does it have to do with culture or people's
This is
greed
why
and
this is why I connected. No, this is why I connected. This is why I connected. Apart from me being greedy, I can go to God and ask God, give me money because I want it for me. That's me being greedy. You get? That's me being greedy because I want it for me. I want money for me. I want the fame. I want the cars. That's me. That's me being greedy. But then let's relate to the African tradition where I get someone's kid, sacrifice that kid to small gods to get money.
Do you think that has to do with our tradition, or it's just people being satanic in a way? Because I don't know. Sometimes
the thing
I think
is,
it's different.
no. Before in the day, we had spiritual leaders. Before colonial times came. Now those spiritual leaders are now pastors and imams and all that. But let's go back to our spiritual leaders. That time when we had kings as rulers and not presidents, we had spiritual leaders who would come and advise the kings. But you've never had at one point where those spiritual leaders had to sacrifice children to get those aspects. So I'm saying that
the traditional,
yes, the spiritual leaders, they never had to do all that.
Actually, that reminds me of something. I went to Tanda Theological Site in Mitiana, and I saw this traditional doctor. Yeah. You get it? He was busy, you know, chanting, and he had a Bible open there, and he had a Quran. He would chant his incantations, then he reads a scripture out loud, and then he goes into the Quran and recites a verse. And I asked him, how come you have two things? You have the Bible, you have the Quran, and then you're praying at the altar of Mwanga. I thought these don't mix. And this is, you know, he laughed so hard and told me, my dear, you are the guys who mix this up. That's what he told me. Because we also pray to God, but maybe we use different channels. According to him, they also pray to God. And what they call the judges are the intercessors. Like you see in the Catholic Church where you have Saint Paul, Saint. So they also have, I think, Saint Mwanga, Saint Musa.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So did that make what he was doing demonic?
I don't know.
We all believe in one God, no matter how many names we call him. Allah, God, Jehovah, Isha, the whole, you know, God, Katonda. That aspect, yeah. But it's what we do in those religions that make it demonic.
Let me ask you guys something. Would you actually go to a show? See your faces?
No.
Would you go to a shrine?
For educational matters? I would.
No, like
for historical matters, I would. But my religion does not inspect with that whole concept.
It brings me to a question. Would you wear back cloth to church? Put a full
blown. I see now you have to change it. I would design it. I would even give it a Nike label. Trust me, I would roll in some back cloth Supras right there. I'm talking Jordans.
One time I was wearing a necklace, and it was made out of back cloth, and I walked. There was this person who was born again. The reaction was alarming. Oh my God!
Every person is a fan of Laura's show. I'm going to make it clear to you. Back cloth is like any fashion statement, like Yeezy, Adidas, Nike, Supras, Jordan, Gucci and Gabbana, Louis Vuitton. It's just that when you step in Africa, 256 Uganda, that's what we rock. So do not associate your
Yeah.
your whole aspect.
Roger
So I'm just saying.
Roger
And by the way, it's not a disclaimer. It's not a disclaimer. My views are mine alone, not for the show.
Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't, and check out our Facebook page. It is also called Know Your Roots, where you'll get all your cultural knowledge brought to you. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, so another issue that we will have to deal with is the demonization of other religions and cultures. They kept asking or talking about what's demonic, and that's a common trait of Christianity, to label something outside of Christianity as demonic, evil, satanic, etc. We do not see that in African cultures.
Yep. Islam, Islam. Outside of Islam, they call you an infidel if you don't believe in Allah. You don't believe if you're not a Muslim. And like I said, and that's what, this is what hurts me so much. Like I said, we have so many people that say they be rocking with us, but apparently they can't, man, because the information that we keep putting on the, like we have videos on this channel, man. We have numerous presentations on these channels. Like I said, we can put these things in publication. And like I said, I'm looking right now. I just put down my book and I'm looking at our book, just volume 1, just dealing with volume 1. You know what I'm saying? We talk about this in volume 1. We talk about the misleading terms, man, all these darn misleading terms, and where these misleading terms, and so forth come from. And then I'm looking right here where we talk about the characteristics of, this is my chapter, characteristics of African tradition. It has no founders or reforms like Wanta, the Buddha, Asor, Christ, or Muhammad. It is not religions of one hero. It has no missionaries or even desires to propagate the religions or proselytize. And that's something else that you see in Christianity, Judaism, Islam. They're proselytized. They are going around screaming that their God is better than your God. They are always trying to convert you into their belief and downgrade or demonize your way of life. And that is what we are doing today. Many people, even in the conscious community, but I'll just say outside the conscious community, anytime I bring up something about Africa, around my family who are super Christians, they automatically go to satanic. They automatically go to it is demonic. They automatically goes to a lot of the misleading terms, and a lot of these misleading terms we don't even know. They don't even know, or even the people in this so-called conscious community, that they still using these terms or are using these terms and being anti-African, and don't even know what a lot of these terms come from. A lot of these terms comes from the religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. A lot of them comes from these foreigners that came into Africa. I even talk about in my new book, and even in volume 1, where I talk about where these foreigners, these investigators, had even been into Africa yet, or some of these foreigners or some of these investigators hadn't even been into Africa yet. Name some of the names. I named even some of the publications who wrote publications and demonized Africa, and they hadn't even been over there in Africa, and we still using some of these outdated terms from the early 1900s by people that hadn't even been into Africa, just had a hatred for Africa, and said that they've been into the interiors of Africa, had never been into the interiors of Africa, and then wrote and reported about these incidents of being in Africa, and and these people ate people, we running around butt naked, and we cannibals, and we eating each other, and these people are satanic, and we're sacrificing our children. It's just so many different things, man, that I can keep expounding on. But like a lot of these conversations, like I'm talking about now, bro, we have already dealt with this, man. And I think that we should put together something together, or even write some more people on, man, and we write down everything that's going on. This thing about I'm seeing, or I seen today that one, I'm not gonna mention the brother name. He said Christianity was shaped by Africans. Africans formed Christianity. If I might be quoting a brother wrong, but that's incorrect. I know. So it's, you know, that thing to be addressed. The God and human affairs, that need to be addressed, or comparing African traditions with Christianity, Judaism, Islam, that need to be addressed. The things with the Arabs, that need to be addressed. The talking about certain things are indigenous in Africa because it's been there 500 years or 1,000 years. That make, and which I talks about that, I think, in chapter 2. What's indigenous? What, when we talk about indigenous, what are we really talking about when we talk about indigenous? So that does not make something indigenous because it's been there for 500 years. It's just a lot of things, man, that we just need to just go down the list, man, and write, and we just need to sit down and we need to address a lot of the issues because we have a lot of it already in publication. We ain't just sitting up here just laddergagging and talking. We're actually researching, and we're actually putting it in public and putting it in writing where people can go back and look at it themselves, and then go back and verify what we saying to actually be right and exact, or actually be way off. We giving you that option, you know what I'm saying? And if we're not clear on certain things, we're not asking 1,000 questions. We're not questioning you to death. We're going and so again, we just need to put together something, or we just need to get a forum together, get these questions together, man, and invite some people on a panel, and we need to have a bill, man. You know what I'm saying? We just need to have a bill, not an argument, but a bill. You know what I'm saying? Because I get turned off real quick from another individual not letting you want to talk. You know what I'm saying? Or want to son you. You know what I'm saying? Or one up you. You know what I'm saying? But we can try to put something together, man, where we can, it won't just be about us. It can be about some other individuals that want to come on. They got some issues they want to address. You know what I'm saying? Some issues that we want to address. You know what I'm saying? And we can build, you know what I'm saying? We can build the monster too. We can respect one another. We can listen to one another, because a lot of the stuff, bro, that I'm hearing, man, it's making me feel a certain type of way, and it's making me look at individuals in a different light. Because again, we're not gonna speak about nothing if we're not studied on the subject. You don't hear me talking about anything about vaccines. You don't hear me talking anything about herbs. You don't hear me talk anything. You don't hear me talking about astrophysics, quantum physics. I dibble and dabble in astrophysics, quantum physics. You know what I'm saying? I study a little bit on vaccines, just enough, but I'm not well studied in those subject matter. So I don't get in conversations that I know that I'm not well studied in. And some of these people have to be the same way. I see people in conversations that they not well studied in, and they think they know, but they don't even know. And then they're not giving the people the opportunity that studied in the field an opportunity to really go in without butting in or moving the goalposts, or asking you ask one question and then don't let them finish asking the question, then you go on top of the question that you asked, and you asking another question on top of that without letting them letting them finish, man. But I think, man, it's a good discussion, a good bill need to be had. Some of these issues that we having some concerns with, man, need to be hashed out. And even though it may not change nobody perspective or feeling, change their viewpoint, but at least we can put it out there where somebody can go back in the archives, man, and they can have a reference points to go to, because some of the information that is being told out there right now, man, is some misinformation, man.
Yeah, man, you made a excellent point. Like, we can't keep speaking on issues that we not studied in. It makes no sense, and especially when we get upset when the pseudos do this same thing. We can't turn around and do what the pseudos doing. Like, that's illogical.
Right. I would like, hey, you also can't be generalists, man, because we got issues with generalists. If you not, you know what I'm saying,
It's a fact.
real deep in that, let the people that's like Kofi saying, let them in there, because like it's a lot of stuff being said, like certain stuff's not science, and from what I've been assessing, it is science. It's just a science that I see a lot of people don't like to deal with, and that science is sociology. Like we talking about people's culture and religions and belief, that's all wrapped into one thing. That's a sociological clash that we even witnessing. You know what I'm saying? Just with trying to say Christianity is African, like those are two different things. There's a whole paradigm attached to a language, to a word. Like if a word comes from somewhere, there's a whole background to that. And that science dealing with that is sociolinguistics. If you know what I'm saying, anybody want to, you know, try to correct me on that or anything like that. So that's something that I think people need to look into in this conversation as well. Add that in there and understand people that's dealing with like African studies and stuff like that. They got a good grasp of what's going on. And if you just dealing with like astrophysics and stuff, you're not going to be able to comprehend these dynamics. Well, that's all I wanted to say. That's all I've been assessing from what I've been seeing, man.
Yeah, man.
Nikki Lane said Christianity might not be African, but neither is Africa. Yeah, so that's semantics. Yeah, we know that the term Africa is not or may not be African in origin. I'm gonna say may not because there's different theories out there. There is no scholarly consensus. Some people think it came from one place. Some scholars think it came from another place. So I'll just leave that at that. But yeah, that has no relevancy in the conversation right now. So
no, because that's another sociological issue. You're dealing with language and different paradigms here. Like, yeah, it's not African, but that's a blanket term that even people in Africa accept. So that, like you say, that's a null and moot point.
Right. So yeah, to say Christianity is African, I need to know the criteria that these people are using to make that statement, because African people have utilized Islam way more and way longer than they have Christianity. Okay, we got Christianity in a certain section of Africa in the early 3rd, 4th century, but just like in a country or two. Yeah, Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity.
But we have Islam widespread.
Yep.
Go ahead. What you say?
Oh no, I was just saying, you know, with Christianity, they were saying 1st and 2nd century. I you know, and they may be correct. I see 3rd century Christianity. You know, being in Africa. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just saying, even with that, like we see Islam more widespread, being utilized more in Africa. We see Islam being remixed more to fit the African paradigm. I mean, if we're gonna call Christianity African, then you might as well say Islam is African. But of course, I don't agree to either one of those claims. The origin is outside of Africa, regardless of how long that these religions have been in Africa. They do not fit the cultural African worldview. So you will have to show me and break down that criteria. Yeah, we have people in Africa helping to reshape the religion of Christianity, but I don't understand how that would make it African. I mean, one person was named Saint Augustus. He was not. Let me see. Let's see what Saint Augustus is from. I know he's in North Africa, but North Africa had been colonized somewhat at that time. Saint Augustine of Hippo was a theologian, philosopher, and bishop of Hippo region of Numidia, Roman North Africa. So more than likely he was Roman.
Yeah, and I meant to go, man. I can't even. I went to one of my bookshelves that I know. I got 2 books that talk about Saint Augustine. It's kind of break down this whole thing. I heard what's his name was talking about bishops, African bishops, and kind of break down like the whole line. They talk about Saint Augustine. They talk about some other bishops that later on doing the invasions of Rome. Dang, I need to find that damn book, man. Go ahead, bro. I'm finna try to find it, man. I done rearranged that bookshelf. Let me go in. I got tons of books. I'm finna try to find that book. Hold on.
Okay, so he was a Roman Berber. Let me see. Let me share the screen. He was a Roman Berber, so technically he was an African. Augustine of Hippo, also known as Saint Augustine, Saint Austin, known by various cognomens throughout the many denominations of the Christian world, including, where Augustine was a bishop in modern day Annaba, Algeria. His mother, Monica, was a devout Christian. His father, Patricius, was a pagan who converted to Christianity on his deathbed. He had a brother named Navigius and a sister whose name scholars generally agree Augustine and his family were Berbers, an ethnic group indigenous to North Africa, but were heavily Romanized, speaking only Latin at home as a matter of pride and dignity. All right, so yeah, he was a Berber. Okay, so Augustine was a Berber. He helped shape Christianity. So that means, I'm pretty sure he's not the only one that people are referring to. So that makes Christianity African. Like I'm not understanding.
What I mean, and the reshaping. What I mean, shaping Christianity. What that mean? I'm trying to understand that too. I'm lost with that.
And you need a metric, and you know what I'm saying. We need some type of metric of what makes it African, because we ain't gonna never be able to grasp it if it ain't one. If they just considering using any little anecdotal, you know what I'm saying? It needs to be some type of line, some type of metric.
Yeah, some type of criteria.
Right. Don't have the criteria. Don't have the criteria. That's why. And just going back to what I'm saying, I mean, you're looking at everything from an old, worldview, or old standpoint. You know what I'm saying? They comparing everything, Christianity is the same as Kimoyo. Judaism is the same as Kimoyo. Islam is the same as Kimoyo. That's far from the truth. And we can lay down, we can lay down, we can give you a metric between the two. Like I said, we can go to volume 1, or we can go to my book, Beautiful Lessons about Kimoyo. And we can give you, lay it all the way down. We can tell you what Christianity does, and we can show you what we can show you what Christianity does, and we can show you what African traditions, or what Kimoyo or what Kimoyo is. You know what I'm saying? And we can contrast between the two. They don't have this, they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do this, that, and the third is not the same. It is not the same.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do. Lay out the cultural markers of most African religions and do the same thing with Christianity and put them side by side.
But we can do that. But I already did it. Not only in the book, bro. We can go back and come. It may not be on this channel. It may be on the Mossy. I already did it. I already did a compare and contrast between the two. Did a full and I'm gonna tell you, I did it. It was expired by. This was before I even knew. Damn, I'm tired. I forget everybody's name when I'm tired. What's the sister name? Damn, and we talk all the time. We hadn't talked in about a month or two. In the pseudo killers, what's
CK, man.
CK. Damn, I'm tired. I forget. But yeah, it was my first encounter with CK was and the one just heard was that late young boy that used to be a part of CK. I mean, a part of the pseudo killers.
Yeah, Ivan X.
Who?
Ivan X, double X.
Yeah, double X, and it was somebody else, and we was kind of going back and forward on the channel, man. This might have been maybe about 2 years ago, and from that experience, because they were still trying to say they was comparing Christianity with African traditions and saying African tradition does the same thing, that, and the third. And I was like, nah, that's far from the case. So from that conversation, I got upset. I got off the panel. And from that conversation, I went in and did a whole presentation on compare and contrast. Matter of fact, I'm gonna try to find it. But
hold on, catch me up real quick. What you referring to?
We trying to show now with a compare and contrast. You know, everybody is saying like, they're looking at Kimoyo as the same as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So
how the fuck can you do that?
Because they doing it. I mean, you can't, but I'm saying so they don't have a contrast. So they're just because however the Christian,
you can't even compare. You can't compare Kimoyo with Judaistic, Christianity, or Islamic or Abrahamic traditions. That you don't. So we really don't have to entertain that because it's not indigenous to Africa. It's not a part of African culture. It was infused into African culture. It was infused into the continent of Africa through trade, through enslavement, through missionary work by all of these people. So to sit here and to equate that with something shows the ignorance upon many who, from a Western worldview, want to say, oh, there's some similarities. Similarities is not same. And I said that on Garfield's show. So to sit here and to point out certain things, here's the discrepancies. In Kimoyo, it requires you to do work. What is the work that has to be done? That means the things that's going on in tilling the land, farming, hunting, building, constructing, teaching, learning, all the human behaviors and characteristics that we possess today is a part of Kimoyo. And it's every day. It's not once a week. It's not every Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. It is not there's no Exodus in none of this. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on, yo. So to sit here and to play this compare and contrast game, why would we demean or belittle our ancestors down to an Abrahamic position and then overlook the fact that culturally we can pull out all the stuff that we've been doing for the last 4 years, three and a half years, and say, okay, show me this and show me this in the Abrahamic faith. You can't do it.
Right. You're right. Put Nikki Love Lane comment up there, man. What is she? You can't lump African people's belief in one group. Christianity is just one in that group.
Christianity ain't even a part of first of all, Christianity is an offspring of Judaism. So you got to get that correct first. Christianity is an offspring of Judaism.
That's a fact.
So if it's an offspring of Judaism, now you put Judaism under the lenses. And when you put Judaism under the lenses, you go and you deal with where Judaism come from.
It come from goat herders. Just goat herders mythos.
Yeah. And she said we can't lump African people's belief, and we're not lumping African people's belief in one thing. We hadn't studied all other ethnic groups, Miss Nikki Lane, but we have studied quite a few.
No. Don't play it that way, Kofi. Let's just be honest. Okay. We have covered the majority of Africa. When we go to Central, we know what we're dealing with. When we go south, we know what we're dealing with. When we go east, we know what we're dealing with. When we go northeast, we know what we're dealing with. When we go west, we know what we're dealing with. Once you start to see how the cultural perspectives are in specifically West Africa among the Fulani, the Hausa, the Yoruba, the Siri, the Wolof, right? When you go down and you deal with the Akan.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
What about the Natufians?
That was perfectly right.
You listen.
What's happening?
Right. Jehudi says it's perfect. People just need to stop acting like the authority on things that they only on Google, and that would fix a lot of the issues. So the point is, Sister Nikki, is that we do the necessary work to construct from an anthropolitical perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really ain't big on trying to be spiritual as what some of y'all equate Africa to. But you can't equate Africa to spiritual when in Kimoyo, it's consistent. It's every day. Like the altar is fed every day. Libations is poured every day. A song is sung every day in honor of. The work is done in honor of. The community, Ubuntu, the whole, like everything that they do is about the people around them. It's not individualized. This is where you get the Abrahamic infusions in. And this is why you see some of the cultures are digressing because of the fact that these belief systems have overtaken African traditions. And this is how we know this, by dissecting. We're going from one place in Africa to another place, then another place in Africa to another place, and then another place into the Africa to another place, where we see the cross river culture, for instance. This is one of the most unique when specifically dealing with West Africa, because you have Cameroon and Nigeria on two sides of a river, and yet you have a cross river culture that is whole within that area where that river is, and these people are whole, even though one is on the Cameroon side and one is on the Nigerian side. You deal with them specifically for that. When you deal with the Ekpe, you see different things. The Sandi, the Bondo, we ain't got to go through all of that. We know what we're dealing with when we're dealing with that. Now we can go on over to ancient Kemet. We can call these many different tribes. We're going to see the cultural influences all over there. But guess what? They're going to equal to what we see in West, Central, and South Africa. Why? Because they got naming ceremonies. Why? Because they got festivities. Why? Because they got masking, they got masquerades. Why? Because they do certain things culturally that support it throughout the whole of Africa. So when we're speaking from it, is from that. Like, all right, let's deal with where Emmy came from. The Kikuyu. What do the Kikuyu do, Kofi?
Shit, the same thing. They pour libations. They do ancestor venerations. They have lesser deities that they pray to. They have. All
right, now listen. Hold on. Don't go too far. Don't go too far, Kofi. Don't go too far. Now we can go to Ethiopia, right? We can go to Ethiopia and we can break it down the same way, but we're more unfamiliar with the Ethiopian deities. You know why? Because of the presence of Christianity that has rooted out some of those things. Now, If I brought up one of the Ethiopian gods, y'all gonna scratch our head. But I put it on Facebook. But this is what we're saying about the familiarity with African culture. Some people are just not ready for that. And you got to get out of your own way. Like, why am I lessening my traditions and culture of my ancestors and comparing it to those of my enslaver? I have an issue with that. Even just at the comparison level, they ain't the same, because what worked for me served a purpose in my life before I was enslaved.
Yep.
What up, Pam?
Oh yeah, what's up, Black Panther?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody on the panel, man. I just wanted to see what I was talking about.
I just want to say to sum up what he said. He basically, Christianity and Africa got different social norms, social mores, and values. So that's how we making the distinction. That's pretty much sums up everything Sean just said.
That's true. I think a lot of people don't even realize that when you talk about Marcus Garvey, he's quoted as saying, we believe in the God of Ethiopia. We believe in the black God, the everlasting God, the one God of all ages. And that often gets lost in the fact that he was a Christian. But he wasn't a Christian in the sense of, modern Christianity. He was a Christian in the sense of the Ethiopian version. That's what he was trying to follow. He was talking about the God of Ethiopia. So he had to come across some information at one point that, told him about the Christians in Ethiopia. And you got to think about that time. And he was like, oh, wow, like this is the type of Christianity I want to follow. So, that often gets lost in translation and definitely is different. The Coptic Christianity is different from what we would consider mainstream Christianity. But I caught the tail end of what Sean said about their original system, and he's right. It's all but vanished. If you would say the word Waka to even an Ethiopian, he
right.
We were talking about Waka Flocka Flame, but at one point, Waka was the supreme deity in Ethiopia. And it's gone. Unless there's some tiny sect that practices that I'm unaware of, it's basically non-existent. That's what the deal with King Nzana with the Assyrians did. It erased it. Cultural erasure. Yep. It's unfortunate because we, you rob people of so much when you do that to people. Like, people to grow up in their traditional cultures, people to grow up in values and norms and taboos and morals that their own people created, versus somebody coming in with foreign values. Oh, this is Unc calling me. Y'all go ahead. Let me see what I want.
But yeah, you see that, man. With Ben talking about, you see that, man. Everywhere you see the colonizer, or the foreigner, comes into Africa, man, that their culture begins to cease to exist. I mean, even we go a little bit further down, like we talking about Ethiopia, and we go into the Sudan. You know what I'm saying? Those different ethnic groups in the Sudan, they was taken over by the British, and it was taken over by, the Arabs that came out of North Africa, and they, the Sudanese, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna say the Sudanese because there, man, maybe 60 some ethnic groups or even more in the Sudan, you know, their culture is damn near gone as well. You still have some small pockets that practice some of their indigenous traditions, but most of them now um, are Muslims. Or Christians, you know, predominantly them are Muslims. Predominantly the language that they speak is Arabic. So you don't see them practicing their indigenous traditions as
Kofi,
much, huh?
let me slide something in on you. So prior to the 19th century, Christianity in West Africa was mostly confined to the coastal region. Indeed, to forts and castles and communities with resident European soldiers and traders. Islam, which preceded Christianity in West Africa, went through a period of confinement at royal courts, where it was practiced by visiting Muslims, a few rulers, of some of their household members before it spread through trade until the jihads of the late 18th and 19th centuries. While Christianity and Islam are often called missionary religions, indigenous African religions have had their missionizing approaches. Literature that describes Christianity and Islam as missionary religions, in contrast to indigenous African religions, give the impression that the latter are somewhat perpetually quarantined. However, in pre-colonial West Africa as today, shrines and their devotees moved from place to place. Such movements resulted in the establishment of shrines and communities of indigenous religious practitioners in new and different parts of West Africa. I just wanted to give you a little bit of Washington Obeng from an African perspective in reference to the Africanization of Christianity and Islam in West Africa.
That was some good information right there. For business.
Yeah. So, what about the Trinitarian doctrine? Because that's a big part of Christianity. Do we see that in Africa? God, the supreme being, multiplied into three different aspects.
Well, the Abrahamic God is the same God for all three of those belief systems. And when you get to going in their text and trying to pull apart what this God represents and serves, it does not equate to what African deities equate to. This is why, and I just want to say this real quick, but if if Christianity was African, then why are they calling you an atheist? Or why are they calling you primitive? Or why are they calling you other disrespectful names? If your tradition, if Christianity was so African, then why is the line drawn and distinctions are made that says that what you believed in is incorrect? Why do missionaries that were Portuguese and the like, and missionary Arabs and Portuguese Christians walking around the continent trying to convert people? There's no African tradition that goes around trying to convert the other. That is not what they did.
Yep, I said that earlier. They do not proselytize. They do not.
So how could you equate the two? How could you compare one with the other? That is not how your worldview is misconstrued, because you don't know the cultural identity of what the indigenous African is saying and how they looked at the world. So show me in Christianity where water is a deity. Show me in Christianity where the sky is a deity. Show me in Christianity where the air is a deity. Show me where the sun is prevalent, the cosmos is prevalent. Show me those things. And now go to Africa and show me the deities that sacrificed themselves, who created themselves and sacrificed themselves for the sake of other people.
That's a good point, because they gonna tell you that you worship God, not the creation, and that just adds to our point, because they're putting God outside of themselves.
Right,
They're
because
putting
God
God outside of the creation. Right.
Yep, exactly. When it comes to that, but when you look at African tradition, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's
No, you good. Go ahead.
you know, but again, like I stated earlier, that when God is a part of the all. It is a part of the totality of the total existence. You know what I'm saying? God exists in every and all things at the same time. So God is a part of his creation. God is the grass. God is the dirt. God is the sun. God is the water. God is the wind. God is the shade. So God is the totality of all existence. So when somebody asks me, when I'm looking at it from how our ancestors thought, or from their perspective, you know what I'm saying? People say they hadn't, or we can say that we hadn't seen. People say, man, I hadn't seen God. I seen God. All I got to do is open up my door and look outside at nature. I see God. I see God every day I open my door. I see God every day I look into the mirror. You know what I'm saying? So God is a part of his in the African worldview. God is a part of everything. You know what I'm saying? He's not a separate entity outside of creation. You know, and like Sean said, if it was so African, then why would, like he said, when he talk about these missionaries, you know what I'm saying? He talks about these foreigners, these investigators that came into Africa early on. You know, we talked about this we done talked about this so many times. That's why it hurts me, because people don't listen to what we've been saying. We've been saying this stuff, like Sean said, for the past 3.5, 4 years. You could go and just stroll through the videos here and on my Warrior Clan channel, especially on my Warrior Clan, and you can see what we talked about, all these things. And then, like he said, he mentioned the word primitive. You know what I'm saying? They said that our stuff was primitive. You know what I'm saying? Savage, fetish, where you hear that all in those books. If you a reader and you read anything about African culture traditions, you're gonna hear these terms that's written by these Europeans, by these foreigners, by these Arabs: juju, paganism. You are calling you a heathen. The Islam calling you infidels. And another term, animism, is another misleading term. Idolatry. You know what I'm saying? Us worshiping other things. Idolatry. There's so many different misleading. Man, all this stuff, man, we wrote about this shit, man. Excuse my French, man. This stuff that these people we don't wrote about a lot of this stuff already, man. And it's just crazy, man. We having a conversation about some of these you know what I'm saying, some of these some of this stuff, man, that's been going on, these conversations that's been going on. But man, shoot, go ahead, Sutek. Because I know you wanted to go somewhere else with it too, man, and we just been all over the place.
Now, I had dropped the link in the back chat and try to see if I can go grab it from my laptop. And they comparing traditional African religions, or Kimoyo, with Christianity. So let me see. Yeah, Nikki said water ain't God though. I think you're looking at it from a European westernized perspective.
And that's exactly the way she's looking at it. That's exactly the way she's looking at it. Nikki, you can come on to the panel, but see, that's another reason why I just don't like when you see like statements like that. I really don't even want to have no conversation with her, because you ain't gonna get nowhere with them. And then she already says the Bible is the what did she say a while ago? She said that hold on, let me go back to it because I don't want to misquote what she said.
The Syrians were black African people. Nah, I missed that. Yo.
Yeah, he done said a lot of stuff in here, man. I just been trying to like ignoring it. Like I just, that ain't me. I just be trying to just ignore. I see stuff. I just be trying to ignore it. She said something about our ancestors wrote the Bible. That book is. She's not going something of their excellence. The Bible was. I don't know, man. I can't even find it now. I didn't want to misquote
Our
her.
ancestors don't speak Hebrew. They ain't write Hebrew. What is she talking about?
Yeah, and just for the record, we not on here bashing anybody, or we not bashing people that practice Christianity, and read the Bible. That's not what we doing. This is not what this was an open bill, and we just talking about some of the conversation that's been going on. And so again, this is not because I don't want nobody to think that we trying to bash Christians. Or I'm not. So this is not bashing Christianity.
Nah, I don't have no problem with Christianity either. I got a problem with the misinformation, so that's the only thing I bash.
Yeah, the whites are pagan enemies. She said the whites are pagan enemies. Okay.
She just expressing herself.
If I say spookism, is spookism what y'all say to that?
If I say spookism, is spookism what y'all say to that? I'm not sure what you saying, Sid.
I don't know what he's saying either. I mean, put the link back out there. People, you more than welcome, man, to jump on the. Y'all more than welcome to jump on the panel.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm gonna throw this article up. Beliefs and customs, similarities between traditional African religions. Okay, now we go on. Both religions believe in a God who revealed himself through people in dreams. I don't know about that. Both believe in the supreme God. Both believe in life after death. Both pray for forgiveness of sins. Really? Okay, so Ikimoyo, there is prayer for the forgiveness of sins. This a new one for me. Both have religious leaders.
Go ahead, Fred. I was talking to you. Go ahead. I'm just trying to see what. Go ahead.
Both believe in God, the creator of humankind. Both have the initiation rites for full membership. Both believe in reconciliation. Religion is part and parcel of daily life. Sacrificial meals to the traditional African religion are the equivalent of Holy Communion.
Hold on. Who praying for sins?
Yeah,
that's bad. I don't know.
Just let it rock out.
No. Hold on. Who praying for sins? Who believe? Okay, they believe in life after death. Well, that's not necessarily true. Depending on who you're talking to, because life is a continuum, even in death.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Even in death, they still have life. Mm-hmm. Because we just told y'all that they communicate with the ancestors, which intervene as a go-between between the lesser deities, etc.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So you won't hear them talking about rest and peace. There's no resting going on. Mm-hmm. There's no resting. So you have
even with the Remich, their job is to become a Wasir. A Wasir would be an ancestor.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact. That's a fact.
You would continue life.
That's right. That's right.
As you lived on earth. Then it says, both believe God is the creator of humankind. That wouldn't necessarily be true.
Yeah, that wouldn't be true either.
And then it says both believe in reconciliation. No. Because if you went against the community, they gonna outcast your ass.
Yeah, they gonna exile you. They gonna
Or
exile you.
I'm gonna give you one better than that. Or let it have been around the slave trade. They just would have got rid of your ass off GP.
Reconciliation under what context? Because Christians don't just reconcile either.
I'm glad you. So I don't gotta say it. Go ahead.
So we the only people that go to war. Christians don't go to war. The Knights Templar wasn't Christians.
Yes, sir. Yes, they will.
And on top of that, the reconciliation for Christians is forgive me for my sins. It ain't actually doing the work and making an actual reconciliation with that actual opposite party. It's praying to God to forgive them for their transgressions. Like that's not the same. I'm not letting that slide.
It's not the same at all. And people,
woman, that Bible ain't African. Get out of here with that.
The people always come with this old information from, it's 1960s. People, Bible's African. Yeah, it's stolen from whatever. We had nothing to do with the writing of this book. And that's facts. Look, if I study your methodology at work and I write a book about it, can you claim that's your book?
Say it again.
You don't have to, you didn't even know I was doing it. So we need to get out of this, man. We need to understand we had our own things. We need to understand that the biblical text was written by many different people, many different, sometimes even different cultures in many different time periods. Yep. We need to understand that African people have their own things and they're absent of any biblical influence. We influenced other things, but when we created our traditions, we didn't need a Abrahamic source for that, and I'm looking at this communion thing like what? Who told is that supposed to be Africans have communion? Is that what they're saying?
Yep. That's what they say.
Are they calling libations communion?
I'm confused. I'm just as confused.
Maybe communion has a general sense of the word. A service of, well, damn, communion according to the dictionary is a Christian thing.
Mm-hmm.
The service of Christian worship at which bread and wine are consecrated and shared. The relationship of recognition and acceptance between Christian churches or denominations, between individuals that are Christian, communities, and church. Well, hell, according to this definition, only y'all can do communion.
Cedric Ortega says, regardless of where it's from, this ideals is not relevant to reality. It means it's all imagination. Do y'all agree with that? I don't.
No, I don't agree with that either.
I don't agree with that.
It's a part of their psychology. It's a part of their culture. So that, in essence, equates to their reality. So that kind of doesn't follow logically.
So you are westernized, like it is
heavily westernized. You said you demonstrated that yesterday.
Spoken like a true assimilant into Western culture. That your ancestors is stupid, and they did is sit around and imagine things. That's what you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what he sees.
They got you. Don't worry about it. They got you.
That's crazy.
Peace to the panel, y'all. Peace, everyone.
What up, peace, Rob?
What's going on? If I might, I'm reading a book right here, Oral African Oral Literature, Background, Character, and Continuity. This is by Isidore Okapewu. I found this part right here very interesting in terms of Christianity and the impact that it had on our people in Africa. And I think that some of our people here today believe that our ancestors just accepted Christianity blindly and accepted everything that was told inside those stories, and they didn't have a concept of their own. So let me read you a little something that I found interesting. It says one of the few studies done roughly along the lines is contained in Finnegan's research along the Limba of Sierra Leone. In a recent visit to this ethnic group, Finnegan told the story of the temptation and the fall of Adam and Eve to a notable Limba narrative, Karenke Dima. More than 2 years later, she returned to the same community, and Karenke, who had meanwhile been telling that story to his Limba audience, volunteered to retell it to Finnegan. The old Judaic story had undergone considerable metamorphosis and now looked every bit like a normal Limba story in terms of form and context. For instance, it was given a conventional Limba opening, Suri replied to me, whereby a storyteller appoints a member of the audience to be an answerer repeating various statements made by the narrator and confirming the truthfulness of what the latter tells. In the body of the story itself, several changes had been made to reflect the conception of human relations among the Limba. For instance, Ifu was portrayed as a woman thoroughly subservient to her husband Adamu, very much as the traditional African household, and the relationship between the serpent, given the name of a local species, Bannockboro, and Eve in the old story was portrayed in the Limba concept of an illicit affair between a married woman and her lover. Finally, the storyteller indulged the practice of assigning causes and explanations to present-day phenomena of the action of God Kanu, in cursing the snake and banishing it from the human company. Finnegan was told, since the Bonoko snake went into the bush, and if you see a Bonoko snake now with human beings, whenever they see each other, they will kill him. That is why they hate each other. The story ended with God banishing man from a life of ease and condemning him forever to hard work. If you see now, we limbo, we live now to work. The sun burns on us, the rain soaks us. We endure the suffering. If you want to get something to eat, you have to struggle for it for long. What began from the serpent, the Banako snake. If you see how we live, we limbo working. What was where it began, what it was, it is finished, and it says it is interesting how the Judaic story has been given a thoroughly African home, and this does indeed tell us something about the genesis of stories in the African oral tradition. I'm gonna leave it right there.
So let me they go in on the differences on this article. Belief in the Trinity. Yeah, that's why I asked about the Trinitarian doctrine in African culture. If we see that, because that's one of the main components of Christianity. We don't see that.
What's the Trinity? What's the Trinity? The Holy Trinity among the Hassa or the Fulani or the Yoruba or the Akan or the Igbo or the Zulu
or the
Natufians.
Around three.
Keep leaving them out.
What you say, man? Listen,
around three isn't important. Is what I'm saying.
Is it important?
It isn't important. Like you see, they're asking for a belief in a Trinity, God, and that would be God, Son, and the Holy Ghost. But we don't have that emphasis that it has to be three, or it could be 4 or 10 or 16, 256. Like we don't have a set number like the Christian doctrine as far as what they would deem deities of creation.
What's the next one?
Belief in the lesser gods.
So
Oh, damn! For which Christians do this?
Exactly.
They showing the differences.
No, I
now.
said no. They said this the differences. It said Christians do not believe in the existence. Yeah, we was finna fight them.
I was like, hold on now, y'all won't even acknowledge that.
Right, they don't believe in any other God but a supreme God.
Yeah,
to the Europe right here.
It's a pantheon of sorts.
But here come the disrespect right here. So let's deal with it. Go ahead. Belief in magic and witchcraft.
Here we go.
See what I'm saying? So here come the derogatory claims. Now, in African traditions, right, what they equate to, which is being used here as witchcraft, may not even, there's no equivalent, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I'll take the correction.
Witchcraft, that word witch, that's not an African word. It comes from people later on that call themselves witches, and that comes from a European origin. So to be a witch or to practice witchcraft, you have to practice something that's of European origin. I know there are people gonna say, Panther, what about the IJ? What about the Iyami? You ain't read enough Odu, because they are not witches either. In fact, they are categorized as mothers. So that's another conversation. But no, they're not witches either, because this concept of witch in the way that it is derived and made into witchcraft is from a European origin. It's amongst the Wiccans,
Yeah, the sisters coming for your head.
The sisters can come from my head all they want. They can't change any Odu, any Oriki, any poems, any songs, or anything that prove that word Iyami Aje Osorunga, which is their full title, is witches. In fact, but I can though, because I can chant from Mojuba, where it says Mojuba Iyafinju Eye, which means homage to the mothers, the beautiful birds. That sound like witches to you?
Sound like an affirmation to me.
Rest my case.
So Sosa said, "How did the people make amends in the system?" I'm assuming you're talking about that.
I'm glad he asked that. I was just about to post this because I posted it last year, and it came up in my memories. One of the ways that in a lot of different African cultures that to make amends, I come bring an offering to the shrine of your house. Like whatever your shrine in your house is, whatever that deity of your family is, you want it to be over, you come bring an offering to that. It's just like the kings of ancient times bringing tributes, That's the basic meaning behind it. That is how you that's one way to settle disputes. I think it's one of the easier ways to settle disputes.
Yeah,
an offering to that person's.
This chick said, "Man, listen, yo. Hey, look. This chick said she grew up casting spells, voodoo. She had. All right, that was it. That was it, y'all.
Who that nigga man?
First thing about voodoo, get out of here.
Yeah. No, I ain't gonna lie. My mama think that too. My mama swear up and down that her grandma and her one of her auntie, like she swear up and down like this. I was having a conversation with her yesterday, and I just had to look at her like, all right, you gotta accept that.
Yeah. I was trying to find in this book, and I just read. I wrote about it. It's gonna be in the up and coming book that we put out with the Dinka people. But they do the same thing, man. By making amends. It's just I can't find it. I don't even feel like running through this book. Like I just went and grabbed the book, but it's just according.
Kofi drop.
Probably.
Oh, did.
Yep. Oh, there you go.
She said the Natufi, Abraham was a Natufi.
Yeah, I can't even prove there was an Abraham.
Who said that?
But look at this difference. Animal sacrifices. What am I missing? Because I could have sworn there was some animal sacrifices in the Bible.
It is.
It is.
The goat.
I thought this was a difference.
But Christianity, though, see, they don't give
with Christianity, though.
Go ahead, I had clicked Ben out by accident. Go ahead, Ben. You were saying something right when I come back in. I was trying to click myself back in.
I was saying this is the part of the slide where it's supposed to be different from African tradition, right?
Yep.
How is animal sacrifices different when they are present in the Bible?
Yep. They sacrifice all kind of lamb, sheep, cow.
Yeah, so
and Jesus was the sacrificial lamb. So
That's
they
why he was the ultimate sacrifice.
Human sacrifices. I'm like, hey. Your whole tradition is built off of a human sacrifice.
Right.
And that often gets miscategorized amongst African traditions. There's a practice that's not done anymore, number one. And number two, when it was done, it was more like, a war type thing. If they captured you in war, like, yeah, they're going to kill you anyway, but they would kill you to their deities. It wasn't like they just went up the street and found somebody. It was like, oh, yeah, you got to remember Africans are very tribal people. So if I just went to war with your nation and won, yeah, that's what they used to do.
What y'all do, man? Y'all stop talking. All right, okay, go ahead.
The human sacrifice is next.
Well, we just dealt with that, then.
Yeah. I was trying to read the image of God one.
So now they brought out the mask.
This is a terrible argument. Okay.
Yeah.
They said image of God. So that is a supreme deity. There's no masked God that I know of in African tradition that's a supreme deity.
Nope.
Honestly, these two are more the same than anything because they don't have an image for their God and we don't have an image for ours. There's no image of a supreme being in African tradition. You might have, some things they say in stories, but you ain't never seen no shrine to. The only people I know that have a shrine to a deity is the Igbo people.
Yep. I was just gonna say the Igbo people. Yep.
And it's symbolic though, because you can't receive that shrine and you can't initiate into that. So it's symbolic of Chukwu, but it's still not an image. Yep.
What's the next one? Jesus and the ancestors.
They don't offer any libation.
By pouring to the ground, Christians pray to God through Jesus.
Yeah, this really isn't a difference, man. It's, they're harping on the libation part, but other than that, they talk to their ancestors. We talk to ours. Like, there's differences. They're just not highlighting the right ones. To be honest.
Mm-hmm. Nah, ain't no damn Lord's Supper. Baptisms, you know, it depends because, like, if we use the Dagara as an example, they have go back up to baptism. The Dagara specifically, they have a water ritual, but the water ritual in its entirety could be misrepresented if people just seen the scene or an image and assumed that they were doing AKA baptism. But among the Dagara, when they put you up under that water, it is for you to release that negative, those negative things that have plagued you all week long or all month long, or if you haven't been able to shake some things that you probably misrepresented or done bad or anything like that, that is the place where it goes, because they hold you underwater till you feel like you almost about to drown, and then they pull you up. And then at the sight of them pulling you back up, it is to leave whatever you left in the water behind and move forward. Rejuvenate.
It's similar amongst the Yoruba. A lot of initiations take place at a river at some point, and it's the same principle. The water washes away, you know, your stress, your old self, your old worries, your old, you know, way of thinking. It's similar. So if people want to call that a baptism, I don't, you know, whatever. But, you know, water is a key ingredient in all African rituals. I don't know about
that. They ain't got nothing about a fire ritual on here. Nope. The Lord's, we skipped the Lord's Supper. We didn't care nothing about no goddamn.
Yeah, we ain't got nothing like that. They right about that one. Africans don't have practice.
What is this next one? Tithing? Oh, tithing. My bad.
There are things that require some sort of exchange. Sometimes it is money, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is some type of currency. But as a regular practice of every time we get together, you passing around, no, we don't have that.
What's the next one? Oh, Sutek must have stepped away from the ones and
charge of the scrolling, man.
Man, Sutek, he looking at, he must be reading something, man, or listening to somebody. Man. He got distracted, man. That's it, Sutek. We done with this. I don't know where you got this source.
Hey, can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead, share your screen.
I want to show y'all something. I'll share my screen, man. Oh, I see it. Never mind. Okay. All right, I want y'all to see. Can y'all see this right here? The 16 rules of Ifa.
Yep.
So you'll find a lot of people that post this, and they try to do the same thing that what Brother Sutek put up. They try to, you know, merge the two traditions and say, see, we aren't so different. And, you know, you see it, there's a single God, you know, there's no devil except for the day you were born and the day you're supposed to die. There's no single event in your life that can be forecast when necessarily changed. Is your birthright to be happy and all this other stuff, you know, you have no need to fear. I'm telling you right now, this is not found in Ifa anywhere. These things are products of syncretism. people trying to synchronize cultures together. You see number 7 that says heaven is our home, earth is a marketplace. This verbiage that they're using. Your temporal and spiritual capacities must work together. It sounds good, right? Let me show you what they're trying to say. This is what they're trying to say. These are the real 16 laws of Ifa that come out of Odu Ika Ofun. Now, I have a summarized version, so we don't have to look at all this. It says, you know, do not say what you do not know. Don't perform rituals in which you don't have the basic knowledge of. Don't mislead people. Don't deceive people. Do not claim wisdom when you lack. Advise people to be humble and never egocentric. Don't be treacherous. Don't break taboos. It says don't break taboos 3 times. Matter of fact, that's 8, 9, and 10. To respect the feeble and be kind to them. To respect and be nice to the elderly. To respect moral laws. To not betray friendship. Friendship and best friendship is very important in Yoruba culture. Almost more than family. Do not betray trust. And the last one is do not disrespect or make love to a Babalawo's wife. You see any of that here? Any of it?
No.
That's how they do you. And people look that up, right? And they'll say, oh, look at the 16 laws. I mean, I've seen it posted so many times, and it's nowhere. When I say it's nowhere in the culture, I looked. I've sent it to chiefs. I've sent it to Babalawos. I've sent it to so many people, and they all give me the deer in the headlights look like, what is this? You got to be careful with like people. There are people out there that have an agenda that want to make it okay, you know, or they want to establish a monotheistic assimilation chip in African spirituality. It's not there for a reason. These things don't mix well together. And you can see from the 16 laws that come out of Ika Ofun is basic stuff. It's not something that, you know, you could have never guessed, but it's just not the same as the narrative that's being pushed.
That's a fact. What COVID go? He got put out. Sutek then got quiet. The Natufians then took over.
I just want to say safe journey home to Ranoku Rashidi. I just want to say that heard of the elder passing in Egypt. So I just wanted to say safe journey home to him. And in the Yoruba culture, we would say Dari Nako Oduju Ala Odoko Alawo, which means till we meet each other by chance, till we meet each other in dreams, till we meet each other at the Diviner's Palace. Safe journey home, brother.
Somebody else must have went live. Who live right now, Sutek?
Shit, I don't know. I don't know. I see the numbers not drop. Yeah, I had the mom's call, so I had to see what she was talking about real quick. But yeah, man, I don't understand the criteria of how they trying to make Christianity African. We going through it. I still don't see it.
It's out of ignorance, man. It's a justification. Like the minute that you want to compare the two is you already at a disadvantage because you playing from ignorance. Especially you unfamiliar with with African culture because you ain't even studying it. So on the outside looking in, all you gonna do is try to equate the two. Like, that's crazy. I'm not finna do that, man. That's just disrespectful. And like I said earlier, man, like these culturally, Homo sapiens sapiens culturally, right? The way that they deified things or went about things served a purpose for them, for those people specifically. Like you finna tell me that my enslavers, God is going to do a better, is going to have a better purpose in my life? How so, Sway? Because I have to sacrifice my life and all these other things just to appease this whole notion of an afterlife from a Christian perspective.
I seen Sosa say that Judaism got lesser gods. Who they lesser gods is?
I seen that. I just ain't want to get into it. I don't know, man. I don't know where he went with that.
You go get to going down that rabbit hole, you gonna get to finding out that them ain't them boys gods. Them boys they remix it. So that's, you know, you might want to dig a little bit deeper into that.
What, you talking about the angels or something?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. He can educate me on that because I ain't from what I know. Just using the Blue Letter Bible, you gonna find out some of the names they don't belong to them people.
Yes. Hey, you talking about henotheism?
That boy said ain't
Angelus.
That boy said
Los Angeles.
Nah, man, them ain't no deities. How are they deities?
I mean, like brother, like the brother was saying, man. If you go back far enough, and the name isn't just God anymore, and it starts mentioning specific deities like, you know, El Shaddai and Adonai, and you'll find some other names, and you'll be like, wait. These is different gods.
Who gods is?
Exactly.
Wait a minute.
About the gods they got in trouble for worshiping.
Who is Baal? Who is?
L.
What does that got? Where does that come from?
Hey, you go back far enough, you got to change that slide about lesser spirit.
I'm trying to tell you. Who is that? Who is these lesser gods that Judaism got? I don't know nothing about.
Yeah,
go to the biblical scholars.
I mean, he's not wrong. I just don't like Sutek. I don't really like getting into it because people get emotional. And I tell them that they're not monotheists like they think they are.
So what about this Arab situation?
Arabs are
you gonna play that video too? I ain't get to watch that one.
Which one?
The one you had posted in about the racism. What that? I didn't get to watch that before we hopped on.
We got all the sources that show that Arabs are who they are. The Arabs who they are today or who they always have been, and their belief in that they are superior has not changed. I mean, that's not just the black folk either. They superior to everybody in their mind. If you ain't Muslim, you ain't shit. Basically, you're an infidel. You're lesser than, and they treat people like that. They've treated people like that since they came up with their religious system and went around. I mean, It hasn't changed. It has not changed. I've been in and out of the Middle East for 10 years. I can tell you it ain't changed. I'll tell this quick story. I was in an airport in Saudi Arabia. I had a shirt on that had a cross on it. This dude stopped me. And he asked me, was I a Christian? I told him, nah, man, I ain't no Christian. It's just a shirt. And he said to me that it was not allowed.
Haram.
Wow.
For a minute, I was like, oh, man, I'm in trouble. Then I noticed that this dude was a baggage handler. I said, how arrogant is that? That you came up to me, you thought you had some type of power. That you came up to me and you a bellhop, my guy?
Boy, stiff on that.
But he went out of his way to find me to tell me that Christianity was not allowed in Saudi Arabia.
That's religious gangbanging. You said you was on the wrong.
I say that to say, you know, that superiority, like what place on earth, what other place would you go to and they would say that? Like most places are pretty tolerant, no matter what you got on your damn shirt. But not amongst the Arabs. You come in with that Christian bullshit, you're gonna have some problems.
Yeah, they're taking heads off.
I tell you, that's who they are. They don't pretend to be anybody else. And you know.
And they gonna do it all.
They talked about the white folks just like they talked about the black folks.
Yeah.
They said them Greeks and people in them upper zones closer to the poles, them Europeans, they said they was more interested in the men than the women.
And so are they. We want to be 100 about it. They like that too.
Yeah, man. So the I think they were trying to say that. Yeah.
Let me read a quote real quick. Let me read
at Hajj.
Say it again.
You see a whole lot of women at Hajj?
Nope, they ain't allowed in the mosque.
Oh no.
That's my point. Talk about the Greeks. Y'all like that too? Ain't nowhere in the hell you gonna sell me on a festival. Ain't no women around.
Let me read this quote real quick. Let me read this quote.
Go ahead, sir.
This out my book. It says the mobilization of local ideas about racial differences has been important in generating and intensifying civil wars that have occurred since the end of colonial rule in all of the countries that straddle the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. From Sudan to Mauritania, the racial categories deployed in contemporary conflicts often harking back to an older history in which blackness could be equated with slavery and non-blackness with predatory and uncivilized banditry. So from the onset, they created our black behinds to slavery. They had a racial tone to it. There wasn't no cultural difference to it. It's a racial difference.
And that settles that.
Yep.
And it gets worse.
It does. I mean, who you think showed the European?
Mm-hmm.
The Europeans was working for them during that period, and they learned what to do.
Yeah. So I ain't no fan of they enslaved people or went to war with them over cultural differences. That ain't
Look
even
at this
half.
question though, Sean. I think you can speak to this the best. He says, quick question. I understand their racism. So how were they able to convert so many Africans, the non-violent parts, like us as Africans that didn't have, you know, a gun to our head and that just accepted?
They use trade.
Yep.
They use trade. They
Box
control
you out.
routes. They control resources.
Box your ass out.
Yeah.
I mean, people always talk about King and Zana with the Christianity, you know, but they never talk about why he wanted to make that deal with the Assyrians to get in that trade game. You really like that was how you got in. There was some people
they made it beneficial
for that, you know, just so they could get the supplies and everything, you know, and some people just did it just to do it, and other people, you know, actually started reading and learning, and you know, years later, I mean hundreds of years later, it's still around.
Yeah, man, they made it beneficial. If you weren't converting, you was not partaking in those trade routes, and you
gotta think about
needed
marriage.
to.
You wanted to marry a girl that was Muslim, guess what?
Hey, peace, y'all. Hey, Sean, why you let them folks run you off last night, man?
They ain't run me off. I walked off.
Yeah, we supposed to crack these folks across the head. You got the sources. Like, that's crazy. Like,
They didn't have no sources. That
yeah,
was
but
the
at
problem.
the end, they just dead it, like, you know what I'm saying? Because they knew they was digging an even deeper hole with that. They just walked away from it at the end.
Mm-hmm. But when Wujawu wanted to walk, I wasn't walking.
Walk with me.
Nope. Tell me right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't finna walk. Not when I know that before the Arabs came down, that they were already using racial conjecture.
Yeah.
Before the Arabs didn't do nothing but just justify how they are, how them Berbers felt. So for them to convert was a power move for them. And we have to remember, before they even converted to Islam, they were dealing with many different African cultures. Because if we want to be more specific and just say the Amuzai had freaking Egyptian deities come up in their culture. Egyptian, Christian, Islamic. Man, they had some of everything. They took to whatever controlled the trade routes, bro. But they already had these distinctions made way before, but they distinctions were justified by the Arabs.
I mean, that's why the point that I was trying to bring up, because once you subjugate a people, then you're going to look to exploit those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you create a political propaganda technique centered around the differences to further exasperate that situation. You know what I'm saying? And then you get the color, the negative connotations associated with color. Like, that's right. You know what I'm saying? That's the definition of racism. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And race as a social construct. So that's why I was kind of confused. It's raining like crazy, man.
It's raining where you at?
Yeah, it's gonna rain crazy like a mother. Pulled over.
Yeah. I mean, it's on the way to meeting.
Hell, it's raining here in North Carolina.
Yeah, y'all side by side though.
Oh, really? You in South Carolina?
No.
I'm in Georgia.
In Georgia, yeah. Well, yes, yeah. We all get it.
That's why I say it side by side.
Yeah, we all getting it.
Yeah, man. They ain't have no sources with them. They arguing off of philosophy alone.
like I was telling, everybody, like, okay, sources aside, you can look in North African countries right now, today, and they are selling black folks. You think that went away? You think that's new?
Nope.
It's not. Like all of us on this panel, if we went to Libya and didn't speak, we'll be in trouble. We're gonna be in some trouble. Like we might get kidnapped and put on a boat in 2021.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
That them folks not racist.
Yeah, because I heard scholars speak on that. I heard scholars speak of the same thing you mentioned. Like they learned it where they were. They took it to Spain. Spain took it to South America, and the English just put icing on the cake.
But this is what I want to say, because we keep talking about, well, it's the culture. It wasn't the skin tone. It was the culture. Who the hell created the culture? Did the culture come out the sky?
Yeah, echo.
That's Sutek echo.
Oh, that's me.
Like who can? Did the culture just come out the sky and they was like, oh, we accept it? No, they created the culture. They created all that stuff they said about us. They created all the drawings of us in subservient manner. They created these words like abid and kafir and all that. They did all that. And we just act like it's an abstract, oh, not everybody thought that way. Throw the whole tree away. If the fruit is poison, you don't try to save a couple branches and be like, well, this one's still good. Throw the whole damn tree away. It wasn't racist. It's the craziest argument I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, they saying they enslaved us because of cultural differences. and it had nothing to do with skin color
differences. Let's look at that. So that means at one point they looked at our cultural differences and was like, look at those backwards fucking savage people, right? Right? They looked at us and they saw their culture as superior, right?
Yep.
So they looked at our differences, our characteristics, our abilities, our qualities, and they said that their characteristics, abilities, and qualities were superior, right?
Following.
Mm-hmm.
You realize this is the definition of racism, right?
That was my whole point. And that was my whole That is exactly what racism is.
Is looking at the definition.
It's literally the definition of racism. Literally.
It says distinct characteristics, abilities, or qualities, especially so as distinguish them as inferior to one another. So they thought our beliefs, characteristics, abilities, our qualities about us was inferior and they were superior. It doesn't matter what you call the shit. It's racism.
Hey, what would be characteristics? How would we define?
Well, look at the clothes they got on. Look at that skin color.
Exactly.
Oh, look at what they eat. Oh, look at how they dance. Oh, listen to their language. Oh, listen to their songs. Oh, look where they live. Oh, look at their names.
YG
different from Jim Crow,
right? Your YG. So to answer your question, but trade doesn't convert you necessarily. That's correct. But the control of natural resources and your ability to not be able to eat does. So what they would do is not only would they position themselves to control the resources and trade in the area, right? They were to a point to create, disturbing your existence based on eating. So if you can't get the foods and stuff that you actually needed to get to A and B, bro, there was force there. But eventually what they did was they focused more so on the chiefs, the rulers over the people. They were when they first brought it in, it was more so about the rulers. It wasn't necessarily the people, because if you convert the rulers, you convert the people. The people followed their quote unquote leader, or the king, or the chief. So all they had to do was create a situation to where they can broker deals with these people. Now, this is how you get certain kingdoms flourishing during certain parts of history. Specifically would be Ghana. Because of the gold, like they knew that Ghana had gold, and they knew there was a king down there that was on the throne. But there's an example of a use case where they went directly to convert the king of Ghana so that they can position themselves to get a part of some of that gold, although he did what he had to do in some instances. So we have to look at the totality of how they use their political prowess to set things up. And what I was trying to say yesterday, before Wujawa wanted me to walk down the mile with him, was I was trying to give people an example on how they looked at, from an equatorial position, how they looked at people first. If they saw something in a people that they deemed, well, we don't like them, but they got resources, then they would play that game just so they can get access to stuff, because it was all about the gold. Once they realized it was gold, so much gold. And then you get the claims from Buddy in Cairo when Mansa Musa comes up there, and he's the only one that so-called hear it, and all the okie doke flim flam. And then you get it written by Arabs and things of that nature. But that's a big part of the conflict with people's understanding.
You know what, Sean? It's kind of like
Jawa wasn't right. She over there talking about cultural conflict between social groups, and the struggle are real. Yeah. I'm gonna show you. I can show you how wrong Jawa and his whole cultural argument is. Where the hell you get culture from? If you ain't got no people, you ain't got no culture.
Well, it's racist as hell. Everybody knows it, and they never stop being racist. But it's kind of like when you talk about converting the rulers, that's the same position that some of our African ancestors were in during the transatlantic slave trade. Because you got to start thinking about, like the people. If I come through here and say that I'm going to do this to your people, if you don't give me some people, you got a decision to make. I'm going to come through here and blow everything with my cannon. Well, what you going to do? You going to give them some people? Or you not? Or you will risk it? What you going to do? That's not the same, the same answer wasn't for everybody. But it was the same thing with conversion. Like, we're going to block all your trade routes if you don't convert to this. What you going to do?
No, is this
question though? Let me ask you the question though, Ben. So do you think it's fair to say that in some ways, African American experience with Christianity is a little different than the African perspective, than the African situation, because we got so many converting in trade versus like America come under the gun itself. You know what I'm saying, so to speak. So maybe some people embrace it more willingly.
No, because we got converted in America on plantations under duress. Now, if you want to say like modernly today, yeah, it's a different experience because it's been embedded in our upbringing. You know, we're full assimilates within it. We're fully complicit. We don't ask questions, and it's just, you know, it's a part of African American culture. But initially,
I'm talking in terms of like historically, like do you have more, like what are kind of the numbers for like maybe a nation, for like the King of Zana type, where the king converts and the nation does, or you know what I mean, the group does along with that, versus getting it through slavery itself, getting it past, you know what I mean, getting it past from hand.
It was very interesting. That was the first thing that the Arabs wanted to do. That was a part of their game plan, was to convert the kings just for that reason. They knew they couldn't convert all those other people. So they spent more time with their missionary works and trying to broker deals to convert the kingship, to show them that, you know, what they got and what's going on with their trade and so on and so forth. But that's what they did. Like, their political structure was the leaders in the communities first. Never mind the people. The way these people operate, they will follow their king. So if we got the king, we got them. Then that allowed them to not have to do too much. Remember, everything is about acceptance. Once the king accepted them, listen to this. The king allowed the Arabs to live in a designated place, practice their religious beliefs, do all the things that they wanted to do in these particular areas, and even erect certain things and create these small pockets of community of Arabs. This was not in just Ghana. This was all over West Africa. So what they would then do is the missionaries would get out and stroll around. That's where I get the term, where most people just think missionaries is related to Christianity or Judaism, you know, related to Christianity in West Africa. No, they had Muslim missionaries. They had Arab missionaries. And they were there to penetrate more easily, because now your king is this, we're going to do that.
Yeah, it was the same playbook. So you know, you've seen it in multiple societies. I can think of about 4 that actually, you know, converted. And conversion, it was conversion at different times. Like sometimes you would get one king to convert, then he would die, and then the next king wouldn't. And then, you know, they try to destabilize their economy and get somebody the king that they, you know, had in their pocket. So they did this a variety of ways. But if you can remember, they tried to get Shaka Zulu like that. He just wouldn't take it. And he kind of used their verbiage against them. But yeah, they tried to get him like that. They brought the missionaries, they brought the Bible, they brought this. Shaka just wouldn't convert. So they just kind of waited until Shaka died.
And just to add to it, Sosa, like the way they moved. I'm in my book right now, but because I was rereading chapter 4, because that's pretty much part of my argument in chapter 4 is the role of race and slavery, and how it played among the Muslim world. And you know, when they draw these distinctions, they use the multitude of things. You know what I'm saying? So it became very relevant earlier on how the Muslims viewed them But to add to that, when we're talking specifically about West Africa, you already had distinctions that the Moroccans had made. You already had distinction of what the Amazigh had made, right? So they already equated blacks with slavery. When the Arabs came, the Arabs had words for slavery that indicated blacks. They had words for derogatory words for representing certain things. They already knew what they were trying to do. That's why you have the accounts of Batuti, Bawadi, all these different Arabs that were writing at this time. And why are we using these writings? Because the majority of these writings that we're talking about are Northwestern and North African Muslims who are writing their accounts and giving these descriptions on how they saw the people below the Sahara, or what we know as Balad el Sudan, the land of the blacks. As soon as you say the land of the blacks, it's over with. What we arguing about, bro? They use race at the onset. And I think some
You
people
sure it wasn't the land of the unbelievers?
Man.
The land of the people just happen to be below us.
The land of the infidels.
That's
what they want you to think. They just wasn't. They just didn't believe in Islam, so we came and no, it's coupled with we're superior to them.
Right. Let me give you a quote real quick.
Yeah, look, no, I mean, I think the women are beautiful and the men are handsome, but you know what I'm saying? But they just happen to be right there. So I just
yeah.
So why they didn't go enslave other people? Why they didn't go to Spain? Why they didn't go to, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude.
You see them enslaving blacks and having these negative stereotypes pre-Islam. So it can't be because of Islam. Islam was
nobody was calling each other blacks like that. They was calling us blacks.
I know that's the
point. We were calling ourselves that. They was calling us that.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Look at them dark motherfuckers. Like that's how they looked at us.
Burnt face ass nigga.
Yeah,
they wrote about it.
Nah,
it's so
not
dark
just
now
not just burnt face, not just burnt face, burnt complexion, stinky, sweaty.
We were so dark we didn't have faces.
Savages, beast.
Muhammad called the blacks raisin heads. Like, well, you roasting now?
Wow. Hey, they say that they think that that Negro come out of the Portuguese necro for like the dead, like
dead.
I'm saying, like dead, like you know, when they die, they skin they darkens. They're like, damn, these niggas the Walking Dead run this mug.
And that's what Moors don't understand when they say black means death. I'm be trying to tell them, bro, you got that from a Eurocentric perspective.
For the Portuguese and shit. Yeah.
Man, sedentary. Come on, man. All the external sources disrespected us, bro. You look in every external source, it goes like that. And by the 3rd and the 9th century, you know what I'm saying? They came with what they came with. And see, this is what people also don't know. Like when the Hebrews were talking about how they were arguing that some type of what's his name, the dude who supposedly had traveled to West Africa, then we ran him out of that. Then they said he went somewhere else. Benjamin of
Tudela.
Yeah, Tudela, right? And they said that he was in Fezzan, but they used the word Ghana. We might be pronouncing it all the way wrong. We might be saying it as Ghana, but it might be pronounced totally different at that time, which is modern day Fezzan. Like that's another problem right there, because that plays into the way that they perceive blacks. You know what I'm saying? That's how you know Benjamin of Tudela. He not going into no land of the blacks. He ain't just finna just creep through there, man, real slow, like around 1100 AD. Him? Nah.
That's a big problem with history on that region in general. A lot of people wrote about places they never went to.
Yep.
And the more you read their work, you can tell they ain't been there because the dates don't add up. The counts don't add up.
They getting it from somebody that got it from somebody.
Yep, and now that becomes the expert book on these people in this land. And then when we do the investigation, we're like, man, wait a minute, man. This got too many holes in it. The problem with your boy, Sean, Leo.
Africanus, yeah, that idiot. He was super pseudo.
Man.
He ain't never go to part of them places. He was mistaking things. The dude called the Niger River the Nile. Him, and not only him, but other Arabs.
Yeah, I often say a lot of them did that.
Yeah, man. Like at some point we gotta consider the thoroughness of the author and call that into question. Especially when it's not making sense.
Man, we was stupid. The Arabs thought we were stupid, man.
Yeah, and you gotta respect the opinion of an author when he's writing something derogatory about a people, and the book ain't for you. That means that's how he really feels. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he really feel he didn't intend for y'all to read that.
But it's similar, like what the Arabs wrote about the Africans. It's so similar to the Christian missionaries and what they wrote about it.
Mm-hmm. That shit lined up, huh?
Yeah, it lined up perfectly, man. It's all. But if I took the names off and I just gave you the account, you wouldn't be able to tell if it was an Arab writing this or a European.
That's a fact. Look, man.
Yeah, because the whole part of racism is once you demonize a people, you're gonna demonize all aspects. I mean, you ain't gonna just limit it to culture. You're gonna keep going.
Well, hold on.
Too big.
Well, hold on. I just thought of something. So, are we saying that the Europeans wasn't racist either?
Yeah, it was just culture.
They wasn't racist either. Huh?
Nah, they enslaved us because of our cultural differences.
Man, I'm done.
It was a social as Mika says, that's a social concept. Nobody was calling themselves black then.
They got
nobody was calling it. No, the people wasn't calling themselves black. Those mofos was calling you black.
Right. They got real social with our ass, all right.
Like the Portuguese Negros de Terra, Negros de Guinea. You know what I'm saying? Blacks of the land and blacks of Guinea. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we wasn't saying none of this about ourselves, man. Like this comes from
Guinea is a Berber term. This is what the Berbers would call the blacks.
You're incorrect. Once again, for you to even sit here and try to have a conversation over a topic that you know nothing about, all you know is about Hebrew stuff. You don't know anything about the Arabs. You don't know anything about the Arab worldview. You don't know anything about the influence of that worldview on Africans below the Sahara. It's simply put, it wasn't nothing. It didn't have anything to do with cultural conflicts. It had more to do with natural resources and the way they perceived you to be in 7 AD when they first started trade in East Africa, and they already knew that they could manipulate the blacks because they didn't have a sense in their mind of value for anything, and that they knew that they just needed some of the stuff that we had over there. So they came into trade negative. They already had the perspectives, but the Arab alone because the Arab is the justification for how the North Africans saw people. They didn't see people as a, it had nothing to do with culture. Not in Mauritania, not in up there North Libya, Morocco, none of them places. Wherever them Berber, the Amazigh was at, no, they saw you as a slave from the onset. They equated black with slavery from the onset. They were already familiar with us as slaves from the onset.
Let me tell you
something. Look at the language. Look at the words that they use to call us by, and look how they equate or translate to the term slave. Abid means slave, and they were, and the Abid is indicative of these black Africans. So what do you mean? Like, it don't got nothing to do with culture. It's because they black. They don't fuck with them.
Let me tell you something, brothers. Y'all could right now say, Ben, I got an all expense paid trip. And if it's in the following places, I'm not coming. Algeria, Libya, Morocco.
You're asking me questions that's right there. So it's a pro install and they got a native number on there. Yes or no?
I'm not even going to Mauritania.
Okay. So you said the TPV isn't complete. Now, did you ask the customer if they completed third-party verification?
What the hell is Sean talking about?
If it's a ported telephone number, yes, the hell you do.
Call center with Sean. That's the new channel.
Yeah, I know, right? if it's any of them places that I just named, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya, Algeria, man, you got to find somebody else for the ticket.
I feel you.
And what's Africa, but man,
at North Africa, boy.
No, bro. Look, some people don't agree with the term. I understand the history, but if it ain't sub-Saharan Africa, I'm not going.
And Sosa, that's because is Sosa still on? Nah, he ain't. I'm about to tell him that's because Berbers, even though they are technically Africans, they are not the same as those sub-Saharan Africans. We had to have that conversation one day.
Them boys got a view about us, man. Nope. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the places where I feel safe. I don't feel safe in places where they still practicing slavery.
I don't feel safe in the places where they still snatching up black folks.
I'm trying to tell you. I mean, to this day, oh, that's a great question, Mika. Let me put this up here. If they didn't fuck with them, why did they have sex with them female? The same reason them white boys on them plantations ain't had no problem raping our women. They ain't never had no problem fucking our women.
And there you go.
The dick always talk. They ain't never had a problem. They did that in the 60s. You know how many white dudes would sneak out to urban areas and try to pick them up a black girl and call a motherfucker a nigga on his way home?
The honkies.
Man, that ain't never stopped. Sex ain't never stopped nobody from enslavement. In fact, it's a part of it. Why do you think that we got 10 to 20% European in our DNA as African Americans?
Yep.
Because that's a dumb question she asked.
That white man don't.
Hey, so are y'all aware that there are three references?
Hold on. I gotta make this last point. You think that him thinking of you as inferior negates him seeing that ass?
No.
He wants some of that ass. That shit ain't gonna stop no man, please. I can't believe I had to put that up there. Sister, don't be that naive. That ain't never stopped nobody in history.
So they have 3 references to color in the Quran. On a day, some faces will be whitened and some blackened. That's the 3 Al Imran 106. As for those whose faces are blackened, it will be said, did you reject faith after your belief in it? Then taste the penalty for rejecting faith.
I don't know if they caught that.
That sounds ingrained in the psychology right there.
Exactly.
It's taught. It's taught to them from the onset. It's taught. The whole so-called, listen, you trying to argue with me, and this is what I don't like. You try to argue with me about some modern stuff, like social construct and all that. That's modern stuff. That ain't the worldview of ancients or of old. They don't know nothing about racial constructs. They determine people based on their culture and the way they looked. It was easy for them to identify with who they are based on how they look. But for Africans, scarifications and tattoos in certain places was markers for identification. But to people that was from outside the continent who are not familiar with the markings, they saw all of them as what they were. Oh, they the same, but they different. You can't get around the way that these people use color to dictate. Blackness gained legal meaning in the 7th and 18th century in the Sahel. By the beginning of the 19th, Muslim scholars in the region had accumulated a set of theoretical legal tools that could be used to render blacks as inferior to non-blacks. That's before that. When you're talking about the Fatish, an important 17th century chronicle of the history of the Niger Ben, a skilled 19th century scholar loyal to Amadou Lobo, the founder of the reformist Islamic State, called the Hamdallah Caliphate, insert racial categories into the original chronicle to mark off permanent civil status groups of people defined as black slaves. By doing this, the scholar provided Amadou Lobo with the justification for arguments he made about his authority over the people of the Niger Ben. This had everything to do with the issues with manuscript C in the Fatish. But most people don't even realize that.
Look at this shit. Africans fought other Africans. Do you know how European that's?
She needs to smack herself, dog. Smack herself.
I understand when people say that, yo. You hear Europeans say, well, Europeans fought other Europeans. Europeans enslaved other Europeans. No, what? You never heard that in your life.
What does the word kufar mean?
Slave. No, I ain't gonna ask you what you meant. You should have typed it. You should have typed exactly what you meant. I ain't about to decode your messages and all that. But
they drew distinctions based on race. They also use, and this is why I said it yesterday, they use race and they use culture. Because that's what made their religion prominent. Their culture. So they used it. I'm not saying that, and you never heard me say that. I'm sticking to the argument. I'm sticking to the G code.
So check this out. Though black Africans generally as slaves, and this is from Spears to Pens, Volume 2, page 135. Though black Africans generally as slaves have been living with Arabs since pre-Islamic era, the Arab males that reproduce with African females will have difficulty being received into the community, regardless of the patrilineal custom. Despite this, they will venture for the same equality as purebreds, what you would call purebred Arabs, or what blackologists like to call the white Arabs. Although heavily Arabized, they found that their skin complexion would hinder this aspiration. Hygiene, like mongrel and half-breed, is classifications used for both human and animal. So hygiene was conventionally used for those of both Arab and African parentage. Bernard Lewis explains, for example, hygiene would indicate a horse whose sire, which is the male horse, was a thoroughbred Arab and whose dame, the female horse, was not. It had much the same meaning when applied to human beings, denoting a person whose father was Arab and free and whose mother was a slave. After addressing social rather than racial theme of the term, Lewis goes on to say full Arabs, those born of two free Arab parents, ranked above half Arabs, the children of Arab fathers and non-Arab mothers. The opposite case was inadmissible. In turn, half Arabs ranked above non-Arabs who were, so to speak, outside the system. So, yeah, they slept with African women, but they did not respect African women. They enslaved African women just as they did with African men, and the offspring of the parentage of a full or purebred Arab and an African woman was not a part of their system. They did not see them as the same as they are. So yeah, they don't have to see you as the same or equal to have sex with your women. And like Ben said, he brought that out for slavery here in America via the transatlantic slave trade. Same thing happened. Same thing happened, but the only difference is a lot of these half-breeds were either, if they were women, they were bred back into the Arab community, the purebred Arab community, or if they were male, a lot of times they were castrated. So you don't see that diaspora over there in the Middle East as you see over here in North America, North and South America. So while we got a minute, I'm pull this up. Somebody else got something they want to throw in. We was talking about slavery in North Africa still going on. This is the SOS Enclaves. SOS is an organization, an anti-slavery organization in Mauritania. Anti-slavery efforts in Mauritania. Mauritania described in CNN's documentary as slavery's last stronghold. That documentary is on YouTube. You can go and watch it. I've used excerpts from it. Was the last country in the world to formally abolish slavery, arrest for protesting slavery, and lax punitive practices. So they are arresting people for protesting slavery. Have shown Mauritania's long list of subsequent anti-slavery legislation to be merely lip service. Still, recent attention and a growing frequency of successful prosecutions hint at criminal progress in intersectional anti-slavery efforts in Mauritania. The situation is, since outlawing slavery in 1981, that wasn't that long ago, Mauritanian officials have publicly denied any presence of their practice in the borders. In spite of these claims, data that independent observers collected shows that slavery still is prevalent. The Global Slavery Index, or GSI, estimates 90,000 Mauritanians live in modern slavery. a figure likely lower than the reality because the government obstructs all efforts to study the practice. So 90,000 on the low end. On the low end, because they saying that they romanticizing, or not so much romanticizing, but they're hiding the fact and denying the fact of them taking part in slavery today. So 90,000 is what they can accumulate, is what they can actually, what they actually got reports of. Imagine how many they haven't got reports of. Like, that's crazy.
I didn't even know it was a global slave index. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. That shit's still going on there. It's I don't get why black people would go to North Africa to visit and chill and all that shit either. I never understood that. Mika, your boy Sabir Bey, stay in North Africa and let him tell it. He don't see none of this. He chill with the locals. Apparently those locals are Berbers. He ain't never said with no black folks. Because them black folks up there will tell you they treat us like slaves. We can't go to their hospitals. They can attack us and get away with it. We have no rights. We get fed the crumbs, the leftovers. They'll tell you this in a documentary now. So if you was to sit down with these folks one-on-one, imagine how much more you would get out of them. How deeper that story goes. Still today. All up and through North Africa. It's not just Mauritania, it's Tunisia, it's Algeria, it's Libya, it's Morocco. You even got that racism going on in certain places in Mali. Because you got to think about it. A lot of Mali is in the desert. Who own the deserts? Those Berbers. It's been racism from the start, man. It ain't got nothing to do with no culture. Didn't enslave them because of skin color first. Okay, so I'm gonna put the link in here again, and you come on here and teach us. Bring your sources. All them books you be showing on Facebook. Yeah, the Dogon live there. But a prominent Berber tribe also lives there. You might have heard of them. They called the Tuareg. Matter of fact. Oh, yeah. I'm going to let y'all listen to this. Listen to how much racism is ingrained in the Arab Islamic culture. Oh, hold on. Let me play the I put the copyright disclaimer in the video section now so we can just boop. Copyright disclaimer, YouTube. All right.
Welcome back to part 3 of this eye-opener series about slavery in Islam. If you have been tracking with us and you've watched part 1 and part 2, which I highly encourage you to do so, you will feel extremely, and I'm sorry to use this word, disgusted by the information shared in there. Yet, what fascinates me about the whole thing is like we are sharing Islamic owned resources for this. And right now is no exception. We will continue to dig deeper. With me here is Dr. Jay Smith, who has done an amazing job in basically unpacking all this information for us. Thank you,
Lots
Dr. Jay.
to unpack. And all I need to do is just put up reference after reference. All research by Sarah Foster, who's a descendant of slave, was absolutely disgusted by what she found. And that's why I'm sharing her material today. And as you said, it was difficult to read what you had to read. Now let's go to Muhammad himself. And let's look and see what the traditions say about this man, Muhammad. And so let's go back on the screen again. And let's look at his appearance. And when you look at his appearance, you will see, first of all, in Al-Bukhari, that he had white leg shank. That's interesting. So he had white legs. Secondly, that he had white forearm in Ibn Dawud 3206. We noticed that he also had white armpits in Al-Bukhari 8, volume 8, volume 76, sorry, number 8, what do you say, volume 8, and then
volume
also
book 78,
78, and then
number
hadith number 631. And then also when you get to Bukhari 4, 56, 76 to 7, he had a white abdomen or white belly. When we get down to Al-Adab Mufra, in 790, he had white skin. And then finally, with Sahih Muslim, he had a handsome white face. So when we look at the traditions as the description of Muhammad, in every case, he is white, 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 white. White forearm, white armpits, white leg, white abdomen, white skin, and also white face. Al-Bukhari 1363 even calls him a white man. What is particularly troubling is when you continue on with that, take a look and see what Ibn Musa al-Yasunbi says. Anyone who says that the prophet was black should be killed. Boom. So this to me is absolutely troubling. And what I'd like to say is when we look at this and we go through this, we can see that there's a real problem here because it's obvious that there is a disposition against anything that's black. We've seen this now in the traditions. We've seen this now in Muhammad's own references there. And now we get into early Muslim literature. And when we look at early Muslim literature, we see this coming up in the beginnings of 660. Now let's go back onto the slides again. This attitude is reflected in early Islamic period with the African origin poet named Suhaim in 660. Look and see what he says. Now this is an African himself. Look and see what he says.
If my color were pink, woman would love me, but the Lord has marred me with blackness. Though I am a slave, my soul is nobly free. Though I am black of color, my character is white. I am covered with a black garment, but under it there is a lustrous garment with white skirts.
I mean, you just almost have to cry when you read that.
That's
you can
right.
see how he's agonizing of his blackness. He just feels like he just feels dirty. He just feels wrong. Here's another example, and this is the black poet Abu Dalama, and look and see what he is saying from Algiers.
We're alike in color. Our faces are black and ugly. Our names are shameful.
Now, he's probably the best known of the early black poets writing in Arabic. He was a slave who became a court jester of the first Abbasid caliphs. And so you can see long before the slave trade in the Atlantic slave trade, you have this kind of attitude by black people, African slaves, but by black people themselves. Let's look at this one here. This is by Jahiz of Basra, 776 to 869. So he's saying the 8th to 9th century. One of the greatest prose writers in classical Arabic literature, and maybe partly of African descent. In his special essay, The Boast of the Blacks Against the Whites. Look and see what he says.
It's part of your ignorance that in a time of heathendom, meaning like the
Jahiliyyah
Jahiliyyah,
period.
You regarded us blacks as good enough to marry your woman. Yet when the justice of Islam came, you considered this wrong.
Hugely significant.
Oh, he's admitting the ship.
In fact, we hear just the opposite when we talk about the Jahiliyyah. When Muslims tell us all the time, the Jahiliyyah period is a time of ignorance. That's when everything went wrong, and that actually Islam came to eradicate.
Absolutely.
And brought back
That's
equality.
the narrative you hear all the time.
But here, look at the dates. He is from that period, and he is saying This is just the other way around. We, in the time of Jahiliyyah, we were actually equal. You let us marry your women, but no longer. So something came with the introduction of Islam that changed all of that. Now, I want to look at what Bernard Lewis, who is considered to be one of the greatest Orientalists, loved by Muslims because of his historical background. Look and see what he says. Let's put up the slide there and just go ahead and read what Bernard Lewis says.
He's saying black in Islam is somehow connected with sin, evil, deviltry, and damnation, while white has the opposite associations.
Let's continue on to the Quran itself. In the Quran, Surah 3, Ayah 106 says this.
On a day, meaning the day of resurrection, when some faces will become white and some faces will become black. As for those whose faces will become black, to them will be said, did you reject faith after accepting it? Then taste the torment in hell for rejecting faith.
Let's continue to another reference. Here is Surah 39, Ayah 60.
And on the day of resurrection, you will see those who lied about Allah with their faces blackened. Is there not in hell a residence for the arrogant?
This idea that Bernard Lewis is talking about, this real reference between white and black, the idea that black is evil, white is good. Could this be coming out of the Quran? Is that the source for this? Let's look at some of the traditions. Let's look at the Hadith and look at Jami al-Tirmidhi. Let's see what he says, narrating from Ibn Abbas.
Yeah, Jami al-Tirmidhi, volume 2 says, Ibn Abbas narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, the black stone descended from the paradise, and it was more white than milk. Then it was blackened by the sins of the children of Adam.
So this narrative about evilness of blackness, that it changes and creates evilness, or is created by evilness, continues in the Hadith. It's not just in the Quran. Bukhari, look and see what he says.
Narrated Anas ibn Malik, Allah's messenger said, you should listen to and obey your ruler, even if he was an Ethiopian black slave whose head looks like a raisin.
So again, you have a derision there. You have a reference point that seems to be confronting the whole notion that black, something's wrong with black.
And notice the example he used as a model for, even if he's like this, you still should listen to him.
Yeah, that's the worst, but still, you still listen to him. Now we get into Sunan al-Nasai.
Jabir said, a slave came and pledged to the Prophet to immigrate, and the Prophet didn't realize that he was a slave. Then his master came looking for him. The Prophet said, sell him to me. And he bought him for 2 black slaves. Then he did not accept the pledge from anyone until he asked, is he a slave?
So you can see Muhammad was caught into the same trap, and that almost the denigration. Now let's talk about the treatment of slaves, because the treatment, yeah, go ahead. You want to say
something? I was just going to say something. It's kind of interesting. He wouldn't accept the pledge of any black unless they tell him they're not a slave, as if it gives you the impression that in general, blacks were slaves.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Hold on to that. Treatment of slaves. Dr. John Azuma, again, the one we referred to, he did his doctoral thesis on this very problem, mentions this. And let's go back and see what he says. This is in his book, The Legacy of Arab Islam in Africa.
In areas like North Africa, the Middle East, and Turkey, black slaves did the meanest and hardest work. The first generation and plantation slaves in Muslim lands was as harsh and cruel as any other such system, while successive generations of all slaves had to live under the weight and stigma of racial and social discrimination.
So you can see the treatment of slaves was much worse for a black than it was for anybody else. And that could be possibly because of the reference that we have been going across. Now, Al-Tabari in the 10th century notes this.
He said that Zinj employed in groups, 500 to 5,000, salt marshes of southern Iraq. Their condition was extremely bad, and they were literally pinned down there, hopeless and homeless. The bad treatment, of course, led to numerous slaves' revolts beginning.
So even Tabari in the 10th century was saying that this was quite normal. This bad treatment of black slaves was something that was not even considered to be a problem. Now, when we get to the maps of the slave, this is, I'm going to put this map up here. This is what you usually get from 639. You have the trade routes out of Africa and Asia. Have you look at those trade routes, and what do you notice? They all seem to go to the south, do they not?
That's right.
Now, what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to look and continue with what Bernard Lewis had said earlier. Remember, Bernard Lewis is a well-known Islamic apologist. At least Muslims like him. They think of him as apologist because he is the one that gives the best historical overview of Islam. Look at this quote that he says in Race and Slavery in the Middle East from 1990.
He said, the myth of Islamic racial innocence was a Western creation and served a Western purpose. In the 18th century, the philosophers of the Enlightenment had praised Islam for its lack of dogmas and mysteries, its freedom from priests and inquisitors and other persecutors, recognizing real qualities but exaggerating them as a polemical weapon against the Christian church and clergy.
So this is a polemic by Westerners showing the romanticism of Islam in order to confront and ennoble or denigrate Christianity at that time. Davis Goldberg continues on, and he says, Lewis did not find anti-black sentiment in Arabia until the 7th century. Listen, look at the date. Until the 7th century conquest of Africa and the enslavement of its inhabitants. Snowden and Thompson similarly did not find a prejudiced view of blacks in ancient Greece or Rome. In those earlier times, color did not define a person and was not a criteria for categorizing humanity. In other words, what they're saying is these guys, Thomas and Snowden and Lewis, when they look back at the whole history of slavery, they found that this was something that this idea of colorism, this idea of black being bad, black being evil, black being part of the deviltry, that was introduced uniquely by Islamic scholars. This did not exist in Greek times. Every color was enslaved. It didn't exist in Roman time. Right. Everybody were slaves at that time. It didn't matter on your color. This idea of coloration was introduced by Islam. Here's another quote by James Harrell. Go ahead and read it.
Harrell said, Roman slaveholders were neither paternalistic. Yeah, that's right. From far away. No racist in the modern sense of the term. Race itself is a modern construct. Although there were views about differing ethnicities in antiquity, there was no so-called scientific theory of skin-colored race until the 19th century.
Now, Davis Goldenberg continues on from this, and he says, we first see this explicit link between skin color and slavery in Near Eastern sources beginning in the 7th century. We note its first appearance in the Christian West as soon as Europe discovered Black Africa and began to engage in the slave trade, which is much later. That's the 1400s. So 700 years later, this is now introduced in Christ, but it was first begun in the Muslim world, in the Near East. Hugely significant. Now, what we're going to do when we come back, and we need to stop there, I think, now, because we want to then pick up from this. We're then now going to look at the numbers itself. We're going to start getting to some of the most damaging material. We've looked at coloration. We've looked at the problem. Probably we now see that this coloration was introduced by Muslims themselves, by these great scholars like Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Sina, Ibn Taymiyyah. These what are considered household names of Islam. It's also introduced in the Quran in Surah 3 and also Surah 39. Muhammad is very clear that he had a problem with blacks. He had a problem with black color. But this idea of slavery having a distinction of coloration and gradation, that was introduced uniquely by Islam into the whole slave package. Now we're going to move into a whole new area, and that is the numbers.
Absolutely. And of course, the whole thing is important for people to watch, and it's extremely an eye-opener, like I said earlier. And we thank you, of course, for taking the time to share in this fabulous research by, once again, want to give her credit. What's her name?
Sarah Foster.
Sarah Foster. We thank her for that. And I hope others will benefit from this amazing.
Yeah, so the claim that this was not around before Islam is false. We just proved that. And you know, if it started with Islam, it wouldn't go that hard. If it went that hard in Islam, these ideas had to be introduced pre-Islam. So we shown the sources. The people that's arguing against this try to use philosophy. we gave the philosophy, gave the philosophical breakdown, I mean, what more do you want, man? You can say it because you can say it, but that's just talking because you got lips. So you're free to come on the panel, man. I'll drop the link in there. I don't know how many times now. Nah, I ain't paying you no more attention after that. If you don't come on, I ain't paying you no attention. Because you trying to argue with us about something that we're studied in and you have not studied in whatsoever. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Put the link in there one more time. So this is why you should read volume 2. That's what's up. You bought volume 3. Glad you bought Kofi book 2. But you need to get all them works. And you need to actually read them if you want to understand the argument and where we're coming from. Because we have already wrote on this. Not only have we wrote on this, we presented on this. Hey, Wujawa got the link. Wujawa got the link in his inbox. He had the link as soon as the show started. So it is what it is, man. Spears up over here, though. We a biased channel because we don't acquiesce to the shit that you talking about. Go on over there on Wujawa channel then.
Hey, where'd you get that video from? Where's that video link at? I'm just getting in. I'm gonna put that in the archive.
I'm gonna drop it in the chat.
All right.
Yeah, man, that white dude, he be going he be going hard at it. I done seen him on Speaker's Corner before over there in the UK.
Oh, damn. All right.
That boy going in. That boy ain't playing no game. He got his sources. He going straight primaries on you boys. He going straight to your religious literature. Getting all the best writers at the time. You out of there. That boy not playing.
You think Wujawa will handle y'all?
You gonna have to help that man sources, man. You can't explain that away.
Like, it ain't even really a shot at Wujawa personally. It's just like we just go at the information. It's great.
That's how she is, though. She want that confrontation. That's what she live for. Nah, Sean ain't ran. Sean right here. Don't worry about Sean, man. Sean ain't think about you.
Just tell Wujawa to bring them sources.
Yeah, he ain't gonna be able to walk. We ain't trying to walk nowhere.
Yeah, because you know he got sources out the wazoo. So bring them sources, guys. Hit you with that philosophy.
You're gonna have to point for point that right there. You're gonna have to point for point. Every source that boy pulled up right there. That boy's not playing. He had a PowerPoint ready.
Yeah, we about to walk him. If he trying to come against that, you're gonna have to walk him. Yeah, man, you ain't gonna be able to explain that away. Can't use philosophy against that. Everything. Yeah, man, where you at? Let me see. Let me see if he actually even seen the message yet. Because I mean, this stream wasn't for him. But I know he was talking about this topic. I don't know how experienced he is in this topic, but yeah, we ain't gonna be doing the walking. We're gonna be doing the walking. We're gonna be in the lead.
I mean, that's pretty much plain and simple, man. It ain't no really talking around, or that was pretty direct. That's laid out in multiple layers.
Yeah, man, you gotta deal with them sources. You have to walk Bernard Lewis. You got to walk all them Islamic motherfuckers that wrote all that crazy ass shit. You have to walk them. He'll be able to walk us.
I mean, he used an African from the time. You know what I'm saying? Of one of the, he said it himself, man. Like, you can't. There's no discussion. We heard this man himself through his own writing explaining his situation about being black, and like that shit sad to the mug. Like that's really that was their reality. It's like it's our reality. You know what I'm saying? It's no different.
It's no different, and just like Panther said. So, I'm trying to say the European ain't racist. They enslaved us because of our culture. That what you saying?
Nah, resources.
Oh,
but that's
yeah,
what
dude.
I'm saying. Like the whole point is that once you subjugate a people, you know what's coming next. This shit go hand in hand. Racism is coming next, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't just stop at just the culture, bro. Like it keeps going. Yeah. And that's why I thought Seth was trying to use an example of the damn South America. I'm like, with the Native Americans, that's different. Like it's just them over there. You know what I'm saying? That's like if North America, South America was all Africans, and they ain't got to worry about nobody else pulling up on them. It's just all Africans. You know what I'm saying? That's a different dynamic going on over there. So you can't compare the two.
Right, and it wouldn't be a skin color situation.
Yeah,
at that point,
slightly, but not deep like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. And culturally, they would be really close. Like the cultural dynamic would not be as different as you got in Africa and Levant. You know what I mean? Going up in Southern Europe, it ain't gonna be as diverse.
Where you at, Sean?
I'm in the couch.
All right.
Yeah, but I saved that video for the archive. I'm finna put that in my notes. You know what I'm saying? Because Google Scholar been talking shit in the chat. I'm like, yo, and he know a lot about the Muslim history. So I'm like, yeah, I'm finna hit it with these Surah verses and goddamn the Hadith. You know what I'm saying? We finna go over these. I don't know if he got knocked off or not. He's still alive? Sutek?
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Gotta make a little move real quick.
All right, for sure.
Might come back later.
Like
that
and share the show.
Hey, y'all jump on the panels, man. Like y'all gotta get it in more, man. When shit get crazy, man. That's why I be like, Sutek, jump in there, man. You know, y'all be knowing more about the history there. You know what I mean? Y'all better to make the points. Got the sources, man. So jump in that joint, man. Sutek, jump in there.
Pain and bed hurt.
Yeah. We gonna get it in. Nah, I appreciate y'all, man.